My brother and I fell in love with the same girl. Her name was Seraphine, and she was 6 months older than me. I was quite introverted by nature and didn't speak well. Whenever I met her, I never had any idea what to say. My brother, Corwin, on the other hand, was a very smooth talker. He had high emotional intelligence and always knew how to keep Seraphine happy. That was probably why Seraphine liked him so much. That year, Corwin was admitted to college. We were both on our own and didn't have the money for his tuition or living expenses. Later, my brother asked me to help pay for his education by working in a coal mine. He told me, "We're brothers. If I finish my studies, I'll never betray you." The pay at the coal mine was high, but the work was incredibly dangerous. Over the past 4 years, I had been involved in numerous safety accidents, and the most dangerous one occurred recently when a mine collapsed. I was nearly buried alive. I narrowly escaped, but I was badly injured. After that, my boss gave me $2,000 and settled the matter. I didn't expect that just a few days later, my brother would have a bike accident and injure his leg. He needed money for hospitalization. Without hesitation, I transferred the $2,000 I'd gotten from my boss to him and quickly returned home. I didn't know which hospital he was in, and he wasn't even picking up my calls. I had to go to my neighbor, Mrs. Gable, and ask her for help. Mrs. Gable looked at me and said, "Leander, who told you your brother was in the hospital? I heard it's his girlfriend's birthday today, and your brother is throwing a party at the hotel next door. My brother wasn't in the hospital at all, and now he had a girlfriend." Mrs. Gable sighed and added, "The bill at that place is very high. It's at least a few $1,000s. Your brother just graduated and hasn't found a job. I don't know where he got so much money." All the money I had earned over those 4 years was hard-earned. I had never been to such an expensive hotel in my life. Meanwhile, my brother was having a blast, spending thousands of dollars on a single party. But what angered me the most was that he had cheated me after all these years. I was always worried about whether he had enough to eat or wear. Yet he had swindled me out of those $2,000 by pretending to be in the hospital. I had risked my life to earn that money. Unable to control my anger, I headed straight for the hotel Mrs. Gable had told me about. It was absolutely magnificent inside. Soon, a beautiful face appeared before my eyes. It was none other than Seraphine, who was seeing me for the first time in 4 years. At that moment, my heart skipped a beat. Seraphine noticed me, quickly came over, and said my name. I looked at her and asked, "How long have you two been seeing each other, Seraphine?" Her face flashed with immense surprise for a moment, but it was quickly replaced by anger. She crossed her arms and said, "You left without a word 4 years ago. After that, I kept trying to find out about you, but you just disappeared. I never heard anything about you until 2 months ago, when Corwin told me you were married. Congratulations. You got married so quickly? Why didn't you bring your wife back so we could all see her?" I got married. I had been working at the coal mines for 4 years. Where did this marriage thing come from? I was just about to explain the truth to her when my brother walked out of the private room. He was wearing a nice suit and looked quite decent. On the other hand, I was dressed very simply and looked like a boy from a poor family. The difference between us was glaringly obvious. My brother's face flashed with panic for a split second. Then he gave me a fake smile and said, "Leander, when did you get back? It's Seraphine's birthday today, so we're here to celebrate." While we were talking, my brother didn't miss the chance to subtly wink at me. Then he turned to Seraphine and said, "Seraphine, everyone's waiting for you. You go inside first. I'll talk to Leander alone for a while." Seraphine glared at me angrily and walked into the room. Only then did it fully hit me that my brother's girlfriend was Seraphine. A fire of anger ignited in my heart. I stepped toward him and said, "Brother, you weren't at the hospital." Corwin immediately dropped the act. "Leander, I'm sorry. I wasn't actually hurt. I lied to you. I just wanted to celebrate Seraphine's birthday properly." My brother looked at me with a very apologetic expression. "I know it's not easy for you to earn money, so I consider that money as a loan. I'll definitely repay it in the future." "So why did you tell Seraphine that I'm married?" I asked angrily. My brother hesitated for a few seconds. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and sighed. "I know you like Seraphine too, but you should know clearly that she likes me, and that everything between us has already happened." My heart felt like it had been pierced by a needle. I felt a tremendous, crushing pain. After a long moment, I managed to control my emotions. "I don't want to know anything about you two. I just want to know why you said I was married." My brother explained, "There's no connection between these two things. But Seraphine said that you've struggled a lot these years. You didn't even finish high school and went to work to pay for my education. She was afraid that you would continue on that same journey in the future. That's why she wanted to see you settled in marriage first. Only then would she agree to be in a relationship with me. That's why I lied to her, saying that you were already married. You said everything between you two has already happened, but you're still not officially a couple, I countered. Is Seraphine such an easy girl? My brother laughed softly and shook his head. Leander, it seems you still don't understand. When it comes to things like that, every woman reacts the same. Deep down they want it, but they deny it out loud. And when it finally happens, they're afraid someone will find out. When you have a girlfriend, you'll understand. Was Seraphine really that kind of woman? Waves of pain surged through my chest. Later, my brother took me into the private room where all his classmates were gathered. Just as dinner was about to end, a waiter came in with a cake on a trolley. A small red box rested on top of a bed of roses. My brother opened the box, revealing a diamond ring inside. He took the ring in his hand, walked over to Seraphine, and asked, "Seraphine, will you be my girlfriend?" Everyone in the room started cheering and shouting. "Corwin, what are you doing?" We had planned to just eat dinner. "Why did you bring such an expensive gift?" "Take it back. I won't accept it," Seraphine immediately refused. But listening to my brother's earlier words, I thought she was just faking it. Why put on all this pretense of refusal when they'd already slept together? My brother adjusted his glasses and said earnestly, "Seraphine, I didn't have the courage to propose to you before because I didn't have the capability to take care of you. But now I've graduated. I'm confident I can make you happy. And now Leander is married too, so I'm not worried about him either. Seraphine, just give me a chance. Let me take care of you." Seraphine looked at me with a very confused expression and asked, "Leander, don't you want to say something? You're Corwin's real brother. Obviously, you would also want him to be with the girl he loves." My brother winked at me, mouthing, I was right. Although I liked Seraphine deeply, I hadn't even finished high school. How could I ever be worthy of her? And to top it all off, she and my brother had already slept together. Yet here she was, so shamelessly asking me for my opinion. It felt like a sick joke. I downed several glasses of wine in one go and forced a smile. My brother is a wonderful man. You two will be very happy together. So, should I thank you for your blessings? After I said this, Seraphine put on the diamond ring in front of everyone. That evening, my brother got very drunk. Seraphine and I ended up having to drop him home. My house was on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by old, run-down homes. Seraphine used to live in this neighborhood too, but when her family got wealthy, they moved away. After wrestling my brother into bed, Seraphine sat on the edge of the mattress, panting with exhaustion. I stood by the door and said, "Seraphine, it's quite late. I'll walk you home." Seraphine glared at me. "When did I say I had to go back tonight? I'm your brother's girlfriend now. If he's drunk, shouldn't I stay here and take care of him?" "When you're drunk, shouldn't your wife take care of you?" I thought with a bitter smile, where exactly do I have a wife? I didn't even have a girlfriend. Why aren't you saying anything? Did I say something wrong? Forget about staying here and taking care of him. If I sleep in the same room with him, that's completely normal, right? I thought to myself, you two have already slept together anyway, right? Why are you putting on all this drama now? Did you and your supposed husband sleep together only after marriage? Seraphine stood up and began getting closer to me, her beautiful face right next to mine. I took a few steps back, feeling incredibly nervous. "I'll go clean up a bit," I stammered. "You can sleep upstairs tonight. I'll take care of my brother." I was just turning around when she reached out and pulled me back. Why would I sleep upstairs? Today he gave me this diamond ring that must be worth at least a few $1,000s. Your brother is so nice to me, so I should give him my most precious possession. Seraphine, your family is so rich, and you're impressed by a simple ring? Seraphine looked at me sarcastically, as if you'd ever given me a gift more precious than this. I was completely lost for words. She continued, her voice dropping. "Forget about the gift! I think you've completely forgotten about me." "No, I haven't forgotten at all," I yelled, unable to hold it in. After leaving school, I had purposely changed my number and deleted her contact details. I was terrified I wouldn't be able to stop myself from talking to her. But her face was etched into my mind, something I couldn't erase even if I tried. "So why didn't you contact me for these past 4 years? And why did you move into someone else's house as a live-in son-in-law?" Seraphine demanded forcefully. My mind went completely deaf. I was stammering and couldn't form a clear sentence. Seraphine became furious and started yelling at me. Leander, you're always so quiet. If you never say anything, how will anyone know what's in your heart? What have you been doing outside these 4 years? Are you really not married? Is your brother lying to me? Just say something. I remained silent. She was already my brother's girlfriend. What good would it do to tell the truth now? Finally, Seraphine gave me a look of pure disappointment and marched upstairs to sleep. Later that night, while I was fast asleep, I suddenly felt something strange. I opened my eyes and saw that there was fire all around. The house was burning. I quickly ran to my brother's room and shook him awake. He was terrified, and his first instinct was to run out the door. I held him tightly and shouted that Seraphine was still upstairs and the fire was spreading rapidly. Pure terror was visible on my brother's face. He violently shook off my hand and ran outside to save his own life. I ran out of the room to save her. The house was already groaning and about to collapse. If I had run out the front door right then, I would have survived easily. But what about Seraphine? I sprinted straight to the kitchen, soaked all my clothes in water, and charged upstairs. The room was completely engulfed in roaring flames. When I broke through the door and entered, Seraphine lay unconscious on the floor. I scooped her up and ran back outside. The terrible heat and thick smoke were overwhelming me. Just as I crossed the threshold of the house, a burning piece of structural wood collapsed onto my back, and I instantly blacked out. When I finally regained consciousness, the neighbors had managed to extinguish the fire, but my house was completely reduced to ashes. I looked over and saw Seraphine crying, hugging my brother tightly. I stumbled over and asked Seraphine if she was hurt. She just gave me a cold, distant look and said, "Now you remember me. Where were you when the fire broke out? It's a good thing Corwin saved me, otherwise I would have died." Hearing this, I stared at my brother in absolute shock. Corwin hugged Seraphine closer and said, "Seraphine, I told you I'd take care of you for the rest of my life. Even if it meant sacrificing my own life, I'd protect you." Seraphine rested her head on his chest. "Corwin, I'm really touched. Thank you." I was the one who had saved her, and what disgusted me even more was how shamelessly my brother was taking credit for my actions. At that moment, I exploded. I shouted, "I was the one who saved you!" Seraphine looked at me in surprise, but her expression quickly hardened. My brother immediately interrupted. "Leander, when the house caught fire, you ran for your life. I risked my life to save Seraphine. So how does that become your credit? What are you even trying to say? And anyway, Seraphine is my girlfriend, so it's my responsibility to save her. By what right would you be the one to save her? And why would Seraphine trust you over me?" Seraphine looked at me coldly and said, "Leander, your brother is absolutely right. Do you even know how much courage it takes to go in and save someone in that situation? Would you ever risk your life to save me? If I were really that important to you, you would have contacted me at least once in these past 4 years. Right? Let's just end this matter here. I know very well who did me this favor." Faced with this barrage, I fell silent again. That single incident completely revealed the kind of person my brother truly was. After the house burned down, Seraphine took my brother into her family's home. Her parents were initially against their relationship, but when they heard the fabricated story that my brother had saved her life from the fire, and knowing he was a college graduate, they quietly gave their approval. I had no place to go, so I stayed at Mrs. Gable's house in the neighborhood for a few days. Mrs. Gable asked me how the fire had started, but I couldn't make sense of it either. All I could guess was that it might have been an electrical short circuit. But 3 days later, I discovered the fire had been deliberately set. I was cleaning up some of the charred debris on the property when suddenly a group of people burst in. Leading them was a young girl wearing expensive sunglasses, followed by 4 large thugs dressed in black. Their intentions seemed incredibly hostile. The girl surveyed the burned ruins. She walked up to me and demanded, "So, you're Leander, Corwin's brother." I stood up, instantly on alert. "Who are you, and what are you doing here? Answer me first." There was a strange hint of nobility and entitlement in the girl's voice. I sighed and said, "Yes, I am Leander." The girl then smirked and asked, "You saved that wretched woman from the fire that day, didn't you? Your brother didn't dare to save her, but you risked your life for her. Do you want to betray your own brother for that wretched woman, Seraphine?" I furrowed my brows in confusion. How did they know all these details? That bastard's luck is too good. Even a fire that huge couldn't burn him to death. The girl gritted her teeth in frustration. I asked again, "Who are you people? How do you know about what happened that night?" "Hey, I was the one who had them start that fire, so wouldn't I know?" the girl said with a haughty, unapologetic smile. Hearing this, intense anger flared within me. I was just about to attack them when all 4 goons rushed forward and pinned me roughly to the ground. I had absolutely no chance of resisting. "If you want to stay alive, tell me right now where Corwin is," the girl said, glaring down at me from above. I gritted my teeth but refused to say a word. The girl crouched down and slapped me hard across the face. "What's with your attitude? Do you know what your status is? You're throwing a tantrum in front of me. If I want to, I'll set whatever is left of this place on fire again. Tell me quickly, where is Corwin hiding? If you don't tell me, I'll have to take all my anger out on you." I've always been a bit stubborn. I arched my neck defiantly and remained silent. "Hey! You've turned out to be quite the stubborn one!" "Madam, it seems we'll have to teach him a physical lesson. Only then will he realize who he's dealing with," one of the thugs said, brandishing his massive fist. The girl stopped him with a lazy wave of her hand. She took out her phone and dialed a number. She put it on speaker. "Corwin, I have your brother in my custody. If you don't want anything bad to happen to him, come out right now." Before she could even finish speaking, my brother immediately hung up the phone. The girl went berserk and tried to call back, but the phone was already switched off. She laughed, a harsh, angry sound, and said, "Wow, this is what you call a real brother. I've truly seen something new today. Leander, your brother messed with me, but now he's hiding like a coward and won't come out, so I'll just have to use you as my punching bag." I growled angrily from the dirt. A man with no conscience like that has no right to be called my brother. The girl was momentarily stunned by my venom. She ordered her men to drag me inside the ruined walls of the house. The girl introduced herself. She told me her name was Lysandra, and she was my brother's college classmate. My brother had heavily courted her to get into the good graces of a powerful family like the Vances. But later, she found out that my brother was having affairs with many different girls in college. Several of them had even gotten abortions because of him. Lysandra couldn't stand the betrayal and came to seek revenge. "Have you ever heard of the Vance Group? I'm the daughter of the head of the Vance Group. How dare your brother play with my emotions? Tell me how I'm supposed to handle this." I had never imagined my brother could be so cruel and manipulative. But then I thought, what more could a person who uses and discards his own flesh and blood do? I looked at her and said, "You've already burned our ancestral house to ashes. What more do you want?" She glared at me and said, "I heard that day that Corwin was celebrating that scoundrel's birthday, so I sent some people to teach them a lesson. But I had no idea they would retreat to your house. Well, whatever happened, happened. I'll compensate you for any financial losses." Saying this, Lysandra handed me a premium bank card. It contained $100,000. It would be more than enough to get the house completely renovated. "Okay, the house matter is resolved. But what about your brother playing with my feelings? You're his real brother. Will you bear the punishment for him?" If this had happened before, I would have endured any punishment for him without a second thought. But now, my spirit was completely broken. I said, "I gave up my own studies to educate him. I worked in a treacherous coal mine. I endured all the hardships imaginable, and I was almost buried alive in a collapse. But what did he do? He took my hard-earned money and squandered it on those women. Did he ever care about whether I lived or died? From now on, he is on his own path, and I am on mine. I have absolutely nothing to do with his affairs. What do you think? After he broke up with you, do you really think I'll let him drag me down too?" Lysandra stared at me. "Will you really cut him off? You two share the same blood. If he's such a scoundrel, you might not be a saint either." "I know you know where Corwin is. Give him a message from me. He must come and meet me in person before tomorrow evening. This is his last chance. If he doesn't, I won't spare him, and I won't spare you or that little scoundrel Seraphine either." Lysandra patted my cheek aggressively and said, "You risked your life to save that girl from the fire. That means she means a lot to you." After Lysandra and her men left, I went straight to Seraphine's house. When she opened the door, she had a bright smile on her face. But her smile instantly vanished the second she saw it was me. She asked very coldly, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I need to meet with Corwin." She crossed her arms. "Your brother has gone out and hasn't returned yet. Whatever it is, you can just tell me. This matter isn't something you can solve. If he's not here, I'll go wait outside for him." I walked over and sat on a bench near the artificial lake outside her upscale society, waiting for him to show up. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching from behind. "I think I have every right to know what's going on with your brother." Seraphine's tone made me feel very strange. I said with a bitter smile, "You just got into a relationship with him. How much right do you really have? And how much do you actually know about him? Seraphine glared at me and said, "You've been gone for 4 years. We tried everything to find you, but you were just living in someone's house as a kept son-in-law. How strange, isn't it?" So at least I know more about everything that's happened in his life these past 4 years than you do. I laughed angrily and said, "Corwin also had no news about me, right? Then why didn't you ask him where all the money he spent in those 4 years came from?" Seraphine's expression suddenly shifted. "You mean you've paid for his college education these past 4 years?" "I don't want to talk about the past. Seraphine, if you trust me at all, get out of here right now. If you don't break up with Corwin soon, you'll definitely get dragged into serious trouble because of Lysandra." Seraphine scoffed. "You tell me to break up, and I just will? Who do you think I am? Why should I be your puppet? Your brother likes me. Do you like me too?" Seraphine angrily yelled at me, but I fired back. "Yes, I like you. I have since we were kids. I don't know where I found the courage to suddenly blurt out the contents of my heart. After saying it, my heart started pounding against my ribs, and I couldn't bear to look her in the eye. We both remained dead silent for a long time. Suddenly, Seraphine blurted out, "You like me? Then why didn't you tell me sooner? That day when your brother gave me the ring, I specifically asked you, and you were the one who told me to say yes. You know, I actually liked you, Leander. Not your brother, Corwin. I've been waiting to hear this from you all these years, but you've always remained silent. If you won't say anything, how will I ever know what's in your heart?" I was completely shocked. The one she actually loved was none other than me. Tears welled up in my eyes. She started crying. "I already said yes to your brother! Now you're telling me you like me? Don't you think it's way too late? Leander, I hate you." She sat down on the bench and started crying loudly. It felt like someone had repeatedly stabbed me in the heart. So that was why she had asked for my opinion that day at the hotel. She had been waiting for me to step up and propose. I was such a fool to believe Corwin's lies that she was already his. I said in a shaky, broken voice, "Seraphine, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry, Seraphine." She stared at me with her red, tear-filled eyes. "You don't need to apologize to me, but to the feelings I had for you. All these years, I kept giving you chances. But everything that happened today was because of your silence. Now that we've lost that chance, let's just end this matter here. Always remember one thing. From now on, I am your brother's girlfriend. He saved my life, risking his own. I will never cheat on him with you." "Desperate," I said. "The person who saved you that night was me, not Corwin." Seraphine looked at me coldly and laughed a bitter, hollow laugh. "Do you think I'll ever believe you? I admit I liked you before, but after all this, I've finally seen your true colors. You keep saying you like me, but in these 4 years, you haven't contacted me even once, and instead, you went off and became someone's live-in son-in-law. While you were out having fun, you were keeping away from me. When you were doing all this, did you even once consider my feelings? And you're still shamelessly standing here saying you like me? Do you think one wife isn't enough, that you've come back just to play with my feelings? Leander, you're such a hypocrite. I never thought you'd be this kind of person. I'll tell you very clearly. Even if I weren't your brother's girlfriend, I would never be with you. From now on, I have nothing but hatred for you." This entire massive misunderstanding had been orchestrated by Corwin. He already knew Seraphine liked me. That was exactly why he lied to her, telling her I was married. It was all a calculated lie. But I couldn't just leave her to face Lysandra's wrath just because of this misunderstanding. I pleaded, "It's not me who's playing with your feelings, but Corwin. In fact, he has many girls on the side, and you're just one of them." Seraphine slapped me hard across the face. Gritting her teeth, she spat, "I'm not going to let you tell me anything bad about Corwin. I won't allow it. I know what kind of person he is better than you do. You're a vile, jealous person. But he's not like that at all." My face was burning from the slap, but the pain in my heart was infinitely greater. Just then, Corwin returned. He saw the tears in Seraphine's eyes and immediately demanded, "Has he been bothering you?" He turned to me. "Leander, I admit you're my real brother, but Seraphine is the girl I will protect with my life. If you try to say anything stupid in front of her again, don't tell me I've failed my duty as a brother." His threat was actually meant to reassure Seraphine and play the hero. Since it had gotten to this ridiculous point, I laughed bitterly and said, "I'm not talking nonsense. Do you know Lysandra? She told me to tell you that you better go and meet her yourself before tomorrow evening. Otherwise, the consequences for everyone will be dire." Corwin blinked. "Who is Lysandra? I don't know any girl by that name. Leander, I know exactly why you're saying all this. You just want Seraphine to leave me. But do you think Seraphine will fall for your pathetic nonsense? Seraphine, trust me, I really don't know any Lysandra. Seraphine smiled gently at him and said, Corwin, if I didn't trust you that much, then I wouldn't deserve to be your girlfriend. Corwin wore a huge, triumphant smile on his face as he hugged Seraphine and led her away. When evening came, two of Lysandra's men suddenly found me on the street and took me to a secluded resort outside the city. Lysandra was sitting in a card room, the faint birthmark near her left eye clearly visible in the dim lighting. Did you finish the task I gave you yesterday? I nodded silently. Lysandra slammed her hand on the table and yelled, Then, why hasn't he come to me yet? Does he really think I don't know where he's hiding? A thug quickly stepped forward and said, Madam, I just received a call. That coward has been found, and our men have brought that girl named Seraphine along with him. My heart raced in my chest. Seraphine had been caught too. Lysandra walked up to me and said, If you hadn't shown me the way yesterday, I really wouldn't have found where those two dogs were hiding. That's when I realized someone had been following me when I went to Seraphine's house. I quickly pleaded, Miss Vance, Seraphine actually doesn't know anything about your relationship with Corwin, so you shouldn't bring her into this mess. Lysandra interrupted me sharply. Stop talking nonsense. The mere mention of that cute little girl makes me angry. If you say one more word, I'll have your tongue cut out. About 10 minutes later, Corwin and Seraphine were dragged into the room. Lysandra immediately pounced on Corwin and started kicking and punching him relentlessly. Corwin tried to resist, but the thugs easily threw him back to the ground. Quickly, stop! Why are you hitting him? Or I'll call the police! Seraphine's face had turned pale with sheer terror. Lysandra looked at her coldly and scoffed, Oh, little girl, you're really beautiful! That's why a dog like Corwin betrayed me for you. But messing with me comes at a very heavy price. Corwin quickly cried out from the floor, Seraphine, it's my fault. I shouldn't have lied to you. I was in a relationship with her for a while. But later, I realized we weren't right for each other, so we broke up. The one I truly love is you. Lysandra picked up a heavy glass ashtray and was about to smash it into him when a thug stopped her. How much is this worthless life worth? I can pay for it, Corwin whimpered. Lysandra said angrily, Corwin, listen carefully. You didn't abandon me. I abandoned you. A wretched person like you isn't even worthy of cleaning my shoes. But you've completely pissed me off. You love this cute girl so much, right? So now I'll watch her get ruined with my own eyes. I'll make your life worse than hell. Lysandra looked at her goons and smiled cruelly. Your luck has turned around today. This cute girl is so fresh and beautiful. Treat her with a little love. Just don't kill her. The goons' eyes lit up with predatory glee, and they began dragging Seraphine toward the back room as she resisted desperately, screaming for help. Corwin grabbed Lysandra's leg and begged, Lysandra, I beg you, don't do anything to her. I'll do whatever you ask. Anything is fine. Sacrifice one of your hands, and I'll let her go, Lysandra said coldly. Corwin's face turned stark pale, and he froze completely in place, his grip loosening. You're terrified. Lysandra kicked him away in disgust and spat, I knew you wouldn't dare. I gave you a chance to be a man. Now don't think I'm the heartless one. Take her away. As Seraphine was being dragged out, I pulled out the bank card Lysandra had given me and said, Miss Vance, I am returning this $100,000 to you. My only request is that you release Seraphine. I don't want this money. Lysandra glared at me. I know you have no shortage of money, Miss Vance, but whoever made the mistake should be the one punished. Seraphine is truly innocent in this. Can you please release her? I pleaded. Lysandra stared at me for a few agonizing seconds and then said, Her safety in exchange for one of your arms. Do you have the courage? If you are willing, I will release that girl. I was terrified. Lysandra taunted. It seems you're a coward, too. I swallowed hard, looked her in the eye, and said loudly, I have the courage. But you have to keep your promise. Lysandra's eyes flashed with genuine surprise for a moment, and she made a hand gesture. Two thugs immediately approached me. One grabbed my right arm and pressed it hard against the solid card table, while the other picked up a heavy wooden stool. Boy, remember, if this stool falls, your hand will be ruined forever, the thug warned. That girl belongs to your brother. Why are you acting like a hero when he didn't even dare to save her? Sweat was pouring down my face in buckets. But I couldn't bear to see Seraphine ruined by these monsters. I shut my eyes tightly, my entire body stiffening as I braced for the shattering impact. Just then, I heard a loud, sickening thud, followed by a blood-curdling scream of pure agony. I jerked my eyes open. Corwin was lying on the ground, clutching his right arm, his face twisted in excruciating pain. Corwin, all the accounts between us are settled today. Remember, don't ever try to mess with me again. You have no right to. Lysandra threw a stack of bills on the floor for medical expenses and commanded her men to leave them both. Seraphine, looking at Corwin's mangled right arm, was crying bitterly. She was absolutely certain that Corwin had intentionally sacrificed his own arm to save her. But the pathetic truth was, Corwin had been trying to crawl away and had no idea the thug had accidentally dropped the stool on him instead of me. Seeing Seraphine pining for him and weeping over his bravery like that, I couldn't help but wish it had been my arm that was broken. Seraphine immediately rushed Corwin to the emergency room. Even though I hated him with every fiber of my being, I followed them to the hospital. Corwin had multiple severe fractures in his right arm. The next morning, he was shifted to the general ward. When I went inside to check on him, he suddenly pointed at me and asked, "Leander, you were always my real brother. Then why did you try to frame me and Seraphine to that psycho?" I was completely confused by his sudden accusation. Seraphine also looked at me with deep suspicion. Corwin continued, acting the victim, "Don't pretend to be ignorant. The card you pulled out was given to you by Lysandra, right? It has $100,000 in it. Why would a woman like her give you so much money? And she had never even met Seraphine before. You must have betrayed us for that money. I considered you my real brother, but you wanted to take my life. If you wanted to kill me, that was fine. But Seraphine was innocent, wasn't she? If I hadn't sacrificed my own hand, Seraphine would have been destroyed by those dogs. Leander, oh Leander, if you can't have Seraphine, will you destroy her? Your heart is so poisonous. Get out of here. Don't ever show your face to me again." I never dreamed Corwin would have the audacity to twist the whole terrifying ordeal and pin it on me. Seraphine looked at me coldly and asked, "Leander, is what Corwin's saying true? Did you take money from that woman?" Corwin interrupted. "He has the card, Seraphine. If you don't believe me, you can search his pockets yourself." And last night, I heard it from his own mouth that Lysandra gave him the money on that card. Hearing this, Seraphine couldn't control her emotions anymore. Her eyes turned red with furious tears, and she yelled at me. "Leander, you say you love me? Is this your twisted way of loving? You're an ungrateful, despicable person. Get out of here! I don't want to see your face for the rest of my life." I desperately wanted to explain the truth. But Seraphine was too hyperventilating and refused to listen to a single word I had to say. And on top of that, Corwin was constantly adding fuel to the fire. He looked at me like I was his worst enemy and practically kicked me out of the ward. A massive storm of anger and betrayal was brewing inside me. Why did she trust Corwin so blindly? Why could she never trust me? I had risked my life to jump into that raging fire to save her. When she was being harassed by thugs, I had willingly decided to sacrifice my own arm for her safety. But all my quiet sacrifices were completely worthless. Just a few manipulative words from Corwin ruined everything. I was completely devastated. If she had so much blind faith that Corwin was a good person, then fine, I would leave her to her own delusional happiness. From now on, I decided I had nothing to do with her or her affairs. I walked out of the hospital doors. A very expensive, sleek car was parked directly outside. The tinted window rolled down halfway, and inside sat none other than Lysandra. She waved a perfectly manicured finger at me to get in. I pointed toward the sidewalk, hesitating. "Where are you going? Are you afraid I'll eat you?" Lysandra said with a small, amused smile. "I've got a birthmark on my face, but I have a lot of money. There's a line of handsome men waiting for me, and I normally wouldn't even notice a simple guy like you." I hesitated for a few seconds. Then, walking over to the car, I asked, "Why did you call me here today? Why did you drag me into your and Corwin's fight?" I sighed. "Corwin just accused me of betraying them to you for money." She shrugged elegantly. "It's his word. He can say whatever he wants. Who can stop him?" Lysandra looked at me calmly and asked, "And anyway, do you still care about what that scoundrel says?" I shook my head. "I don't care about Corwin. I care about what Seraphine thinks of me. Take this card back." I threw the premium bank card through the open car window onto her lap and turned to leave. "Hey, have you lost your mind?" she called out. "Just because of Corwin's lies, you're turning down $100,000? This isn't money to buy you. It's compensation for your home. Don't you want to get your ancestral house renovated?" I looked back at her. "You're the daughter of a powerful family. If you don't bother me anymore in the future, I'll be more than happy with that. If I take your money, I'm afraid I'll have the cash, but I won't be alive to spend it. Lysandra was the daughter of a very wealthy, ruthless family. She wasn't someone I could trust. If I took this money and tomorrow she went back on her word, I'd probably have to pay back much more than just 100,000. I had saved a little bit of money over these past 4 years working in the mines. I figured I would first find a normal job. Once I had a stable income, I could slowly get the ruined house renovated myself. But after searching for work for days, I was rejected everywhere because I didn't have a high school degree. One afternoon, I ran into my childhood friend, Bastien, out on the street. Later that evening, we sat at a roadside barbecue stall and drank cheap beer. Bastien lamented that it was very difficult to survive in the corporate outside world. It would be better to work for ourselves in our own city. I found his point absolutely correct. Bastien excitedly explained that he had spent a year learning professional barbecue techniques and wanted to open his own stall here, but he had no startup money. The owner of the barbecue stall we were sitting at overheard our conversation and walked over to us with 2 fresh bottles of beer. He said he had been running this stall for 10 years and was now completely exhausted. He wanted to sell his stall and equipment and was willing to let it go for just the cost price. Under the optimistic influence of alcohol, Bastien and I discussed it briefly and agreed to buy the stall together for a few $1,000s. I invested all my remaining savings, and he provided the culinary skills. We agreed to share the profits, giving him 70% for doing the heavy cooking, and I'd take 30%. About 10 days after thoroughly cleaning and renovating the little shop, we finally opened for business. Business was surprisingly good that first day. Bastien and I were completely immersed in taking orders and cooking. Later in the evening, Mrs. Gable and her daughter came by to help us serve tables. The workload eased a bit, and we managed to see off a large batch of satisfied customers. Just then, a champagne-colored BMW pulled up smoothly beside the road. Seraphine and Corwin stepped out. Seraphine, you should believe me now. If Lysandra hadn't given him so much money, where else would he have gotten the capital to buy this barbecue stall? Corwin sneered, looking at me coldly. Leander, isn't that Corwin and Seraphine? Bastien asked, elbowing me in the ribs. Mind your own business. Just ignore them, I muttered, turning around and starting to walk back inside the shop. Leander, come here. I need to talk to you, Corwin called out loudly from behind. I walked up to him and asked curtly, What's the matter? Corwin adjusted his glasses with his good hand and said in a businesslike tone, The house burned down. There's no point in leaving a charred plot of land just sitting there. A buyer has approached me and wants to buy the lot. That's why I've decided to sell the house. I stared at him. I've made my decision. I absolutely won't agree to selling that land. It's the only memento our parents left behind for us. Corwin frowned and said condescendingly, The house has burned down to the foundations. What's the point of keeping a pile of ash? I'm the older brother. I'll make the decisions. Your yes or no won't affect the final outcome anyway. The buyer is offering $400,000. Once we get the money, we'll split it right down the middle. You've done me a terrible wrong, but I'm not a selfish person like you. I'll give you every penny of your half. I laughed angrily. Are you seriously calling me selfish? Do you think I don't know why the house burned down in the first place? Corwin, that land is a symbol of our parents, and my name is on the deed too. Unless I personally agree, no one can even think of selling it. Corwin's face turned beet red with sudden anger. Seraphine chimed in. When the house is completely destroyed like that, there's really no logical point in keeping it. You should just shut up and take the deal. I yelled angrily at her. You're just his girlfriend. You haven't even become his fiancée yet. You have absolutely no right to dictate what happens to our family's house. This was the very first time I had ever gotten so openly angry at her. Seraphine's face turned pale with shock and anger, an insult she clearly wouldn't forget. Corwin hesitated for a moment and then offered a compromise. Okay, fine, we'll legally split the deed in half. I'll sell my half of the land. Now there's no problem, right? I was seething. Corwin, at least you're a college graduate. Why do you need to sell our parents' legacy to make ends meet? And she's your girlfriend, isn't she? Her family has no shortage of money. You're so good at making up charming stories. So why don't you just become a kept son-in-law and get free handouts for the rest of your life? After all, some people are blind enough to be easily fooled. Who are you calling blind? Seraphine demanded, furious. Corwin gritted his teeth and warned, Leander, you should keep your mouth shut. I'm with Seraphine because I truly love her. I don't care about her family's wealth. I'll make her happy on my own merits, not by taking freebies. Do you think I'm like you, betraying your own flesh and blood just to open this greasy barbecue stall? I'm a respectable, educated person. I just laughed coldly in response. Mrs. Gable and Bastian quickly rushed over to intervene before things got physical. Mrs. Gable forced a polite smile and said, "Corwin, we can talk about selling the property later. Today is the grand opening of Leander's shop. If you two have nothing better to do, just sit down, have some food, and cheer him on." Bastian chimed in cheerfully, "Corwin, Seraphine, today the food is on me. You two should sit down, try my cooking, and tell me what spices I need to improve." Corwin and Seraphine reluctantly sat at a table. While Bastian was enthusiastically serving them tea, Corwin taunted loudly, "Hey Bastian, you and Leander are running this little shop together. We've all known each other since childhood. That's why I feel obligated to give you some friendly advice. Leander is a snake who will betray even his own brother for a quick buck. You have to be very, very careful when doing any business with him. He might sell you out completely while you're busy counting his money for him." Anger flared violently in my heart, but Mrs. Gable caught my eye and winked, subtly shaking her head to tell me to calm down. Bastian paused, scratching the back of his head, and replied earnestly, "Corwin, I've played with Leander since we were kids. He is definitely not the kind of treacherous person you're making him out to be." Corwin put on a serious face and sighed, "People change when money is involved." Seraphine added without any emotion, "Bastian, just remember one thing from me. Don't wish ill on anyone, but be sure to protect yourself from being deceived by the people closest to you." Later that evening, another large group of customers swaggered in, consisting of 7 or 8 rowdy young men. From their loud conversation, it seemed they dealt in the shady side of the used car business. Messing with people like that could be costly. I made sure we served them very carefully and promptly. But exactly what I feared happened anyway. While Mrs. Gable was serving their table, a bald man reached out and tried to grope her leg. Mrs. Gable was furious and immediately slapped him hard across the face. The men erupted, overturning tables and kicking chairs, shouting that they were going to drag Mrs. Gable out of there and teach me a brutal lesson. I rushed over, apologizing profusely and trying to calm them down, but they wouldn't listen to reason and immediately started throwing punches at me. Seeing this violent chaos unfold, Corwin immediately grabbed Seraphine's hand and dragged her away to avoid getting involved. Seraphine protested, pulling back. "Corwin, we've known Mrs. Gable since childhood. We can't just leave her alone in this situation." Corwin, looking genuinely frightened, hissed softly, "Seraphine, keep your voice down. They might hear you. These guys say they're in the used car business, but that's just a front. In reality, they're violent gang members. We can't do anything to stop them." He sneered back toward the shop. "He has no money, yet he still opened this stall. Does he think running a street business is so easy? All kinds of bad people come to places like this, and to run a shop, you need to have the connections to handle them. If his shop gets destroyed and goes bankrupt, so be it. He opened it with ill-gotten, dirty money anyway. This is just the karma of his actions." Seraphine looked back at me, her eyes filled with complex, questioning emotions, but Corwin tugged her arm harder. "No buts, no waiting around. Seraphine, have you forgotten how this arm of mine got broken? If this man hadn't betrayed us to Lysandra, we wouldn't have fallen into her trap, and you wouldn't have almost been assaulted. Even though the danger came because of me, he still sold us out for cash." Hearing this reminder, the hesitation vanished, and pure hatred clearly reappeared in Seraphine's eyes. She turned and headed straight for her car. Just then, several luxurious, high-end cars pulled up smoothly one after another, and a group of wealthy, impeccably dressed young men and women stepped out. Lysandra emerged from the most expensive sports car in the center. She took off her designer sunglasses and, seeing the chaotic state of the shop, casually asked me, "Leander, what is all this mess? Who did this?" She turned her head and spotted Corwin and Seraphine trying to sneak away. Corwin trembled with visible fear and quickly babbled, "I didn't do it! I didn't do it!" Lysandra taunted him, "You don't have the guts to do something like this anyway!" She gave a cold, dismissive laugh and walked straight toward the rowdy bald man. "Did you guys vandalize this place?" she asked in an icy, commanding tone. When those thugs saw this grand entrance, they instantly realized they were dealing with someone from a prominent, untouchable family. So they didn't do anything stupid. The bald man puffed out his chest slightly and said seriously, "Madam, I advise you to stay out of this matter. We're from Ming Chang Used Cars, and our boss's name is Draven. You must have heard of him in the underworld." As soon as the bald man finished his sentence, Lysandra raised her hand and slapped him as hard as she could. She sneered, "You should go back and ask your boss if he's ever heard of the Vance Group." The bald man went completely cold, shrinking back in front of Lysandra's overwhelming lordly aura. To be completely honest, I was stunned by Lysandra. Despite being a spoiled daughter of a wealthy family, she stood fearlessly in front of these hardened thugs, and I was also deeply surprised why she had suddenly shown up just to help me. She turned to the thugs and said with absolute authority, "All of you listen carefully. Leander is my man. If anyone tries to do anything wrong to him, it means they have directly declared war on me." Hearing this, everyone present was completely shocked. I quickly stammered, "Since when did I become your man? Don't talk nonsense. I'm grateful for the help, but I can't just let you change the truth." Lysandra smiled softly at my protest, and before I could even process what was happening, she stepped close, grabbed my chin, and said with complete ownership, "You weren't before. But from now on, you, Leander, are mine. I will protect you. If anyone ever dares to bother you again, let me know, and I'll teach them a lesson they won't survive." I had never imagined she would flirt with me so openly in front of a crowd. I backed away in fear, my face flushing bright red with a mix of anger and intense embarrassment. Corwin's eyes were filled with jealous hatred. But when he saw such a terrifyingly powerful force standing behind me, he immediately began to slink away like a beaten dog. Seraphine's face wore a very strange, unreadable expression. She clenched her teeth and glared at me before getting into her car. The bald thug was now completely terrified and began to bow and apologize profusely. Lysandra looked at him like he was an insect and said coldly, "I know Draven used to be a big-shot thug, but when it comes to thugs, my family isn't afraid of anyone." The boy kept his head bowed and apologized repeatedly. Lysandra finally waved her hand. "In light of your pathetic apology, I'm letting you go today. But you will have to fully compensate for every broken chair and plate. Do you have any objections?" The thug quickly replied, "No, not at all. It's my duty. I'll pay for the full damage in cash right now." Lysandra asked me to write up a bill, but I refused because I didn't want to feel dependent on her power. Finally, the bald man just shoved $2,000 into Mrs. Gable's hands, apologized one last time, and ran away with his crew. Mrs. Gable came over to me and said sincerely, "Thank you so much, Miss Vance. If you weren't here today, those horrible people would never have let us live in peace." Lysandra smiled warmly at her. "Mrs. Gable, there's no need for thanks. Leander and I know each other very well. His business is my business." Lysandra then looked at me with a mischievous, teasing smile. I immediately turned my eyes away. I couldn't understand why she was going to such lengths to help me. Bastian laughed loudly and slapped my back. "Leander, do you know Miss Vance? Why didn't you ever tell me about this? Now that we have such a big name backing us, no one in the city can touch us." Lysandra replied with attitude, flipping her hair. "Yes, my name is Lysandra Vance. If you ever have any trouble in the future, just mention my name. No thug in this entire city will be able to stand in front of me." From that day on, Lysandra started coming to my barbecue shop every single day, bringing along a large group of her rich, snobby friends. The lineup of expensive sports cars parked outside our humble stall attracted everyone's attention in the neighborhood. I knew perfectly well they didn't like street food at all. They only came here because Lysandra dragged them, and they spent thousands of dollars every day just to appease her. I was running the shop to make money, but as time went on, I started feeling incredibly strange about the arrangement. We had only just met. Why was she helping me so aggressively? After a few days, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I decided to ask her directly. That night, the shop was crowded, and then Corwin and Seraphine unexpectedly arrived. I thought they were just there for dinner, but Corwin arrogantly called me over to their table. When I walked over, he said bluntly, "I sold that land for $100,000. We both get $50,000. I told you before, I won't keep any of your rightful money. Your $50,000 is loaded on this bank card." Saying this, he casually threw a bank card onto the table. My patience finally snapped. I lunged forward and grabbed him fiercely by the collar. I drew back my fist, ready to punch him as hard as I could. Seraphine immediately jumped up and intervened, trying to push me away. Corwin smirked and said, "Seraphine, let him hit me. I won't even raise a hand to defend myself. He has huge, powerful backing now. Ever since he sold his soul to the Vance family, I've been completely powerless against him." Seraphine glared at me. "Forget about him, Corwin. Don't assume that just because you have someone powerful behind you, you can do whatever you want, Leander." I had my own people look into it. It would have cost at least $100,000 just to clear the debris and renovate your house, and even if you had somehow renovated it, the property would have sold for a maximum of $200,000. Now that a buyer was willing to take the burned lot for $100,000, it was a great, realistic opportunity. Selling it was the smart thing to do, and Corwin gave you your full, fair share. Even though you did him so much wrong, he didn't cheat you out of a single penny. Yet, you're still acting like a violent savage. That house was the last memento of your parents. It was your home. It was your memories. Selling the house meant those memories were gone forever, yes, but you have to be practical. I was furious. I shoved Seraphine aside and punched Corwin directly in the face. His physical strength was pathetic, and a person like me who had been doing grueling, heavy labor in the mines for 4 years possessed real strength. Just one punch knocked him entirely off his feet and onto the hard ground. Seraphine pushed me hard in the chest, rushed to help Corwin up, and yelled, "Leander, you are a very mean and brutal person!" Corwin pretended to be an innocent victim, whining, "Seraphine, don't stop him. Let him keep hitting me. Let's see if he finally kills me or just cripples me forever." Hearing this pathetic act made me even angrier. I moved forward to hit him again, but Bastien ran over and held me back tightly. "Leander, all the customers are watching! This will ruin the shop's reputation!" Corwin threatened me while hiding behind Seraphine. "Leander, you better be prepared for the consequences of this. If I find even a scratch on me later, you'll be the one legally responsible." Seraphine sneered. "Get in the car, Corwin. He's completely lost his mind." It's useless to try and talk sense to a thug like him. Seraphine helped Corwin into the passenger seat of her BMW and drove away. But just a short while later, her car returned. Seraphine got out of the car alone and stood on the side of the road, looking at me. I walked up to her myself, and she said coldly, "Don't you think you've gone way too far? You and Corwin are real brothers. Even though you did so much wrong to him, he still has love for his brother deep in his heart." "But what are you doing? You're physically hurting him again and again, ruining your relationship beyond repair. I never thought you would change so drastically in these 4 years that you'd be willing to sell your soul and do anything for money. Is money really that important to you? I know your financial situation was always bad, but at least you two used to be close brothers. Now look at you. You two have become sworn enemies. Is this what you wanted? Leander, one day you will bitterly regret your actions." I scoffed. "Are you here to teach me a moral lesson about life, or to fight me on behalf of your future husband? When you can't even see the truth about your own man, you have absolutely no right to try and lecture me." Seraphine was taken aback for a moment. She frowned and asked, "You always say that Corwin has wronged you. So what exactly did he do? Tell me clearly." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Seraphine, even if I tell you the absolute truth, will you believe me? If I tell you that I was the one who saved your life from the fire that night, will you believe it? If I tell you that I didn't betray you to Lysandra, will you listen to me? That night when Lysandra bet that she would break my arm in exchange for your life, and I agreed to let her do it, will you believe it? In your blind eyes, Corwin has always been a great hero, and I have always been a mean, selfish villain." Her expression changed rapidly for a few seconds. She looked surprised, then deeply lost in thought, her eyes searching mine for any hint of a lie. But finally, her walls went back up, and she spoke coldly again. "I want to trust you. I really do." But what I saw with my own eyes tells a completely different story. That night, when I woke up coughing on the lawn, I was in Corwin's arms, and you were lying unconscious on the ground. How can an unconscious person carry someone out of a fire? And you're claiming that Lysandra let me go because of your sacrifice, but only Corwin's arm was broken, and you didn't have a single scratch on yours. Tell me, Leander, how am I supposed to trust your crazy stories? I shouted angrily, my patience finally exhausted. "That's enough! Fine! Yes, I'm the bad guy. Now you're happy, aren't you? You said you never want to see my face again, so I'll make it crystal clear that I don't care about you either. Don't ever come near me again." I was completely mad with anger, and Seraphine's face showed a fierce, stubborn anger in return. Just then, Lysandra arrived with her usual entourage of friends. She told her friends to go sit inside, then walked over, looking at Seraphine with disdain. She asked me, "Leander, what is she doing here? I'm warning you. You're my man. Don't try anything sneaky behind my back with your ex-crush. Otherwise, you'll face a fate far worse than that dog, Corwin." Seraphine scoffed loudly. "Your man? Why don't you ask him if he's married first? You're claiming he's your man? Have you asked his poor wife how she feels about this?" Lysandra was genuinely shocked. "You're married?" she asked, staring at me wide-eyed. Seraphine smiled triumphantly. "So, do you still think he's as simple and loyal as he seems? He was just telling me he likes me. If you don't mind that he's already married, then I congratulate you both on a match made in hell." Leander, that was the absolute last time I will ever come to see you. From today on, our paths are forever separated." With that final declaration, Seraphine got into her car and sped off. Lysandra immediately grabbed my ear and started pulling me roughly inside the shop. Everyone in the restaurant was looking at us strangely. As soon as we reached an empty storage room, she let go of my ear and lightly kicked me in the shin. "You bastard! Tell me the truth right now. Are you really married?" She took off her sunglasses and crossed her arms angrily. "Tell me quickly. If you're hiding a secret family from me, I won't spare you." I rubbed my shin and said, "What difference does it make to you whether I'm married or not?" Lysandra slammed her hand on the wooden table. "It matters a lot! If you're married, it'll completely ruin my plan!" I frowned. "What kind of plan? What are you trying to do?" she yelled. "Answer my question first. Are you married or not?" I took a deep breath, exhausted, and shook my head. "No, I'm not." "Then why did that girl say you're married?" she demanded. I said, "That's all a massive lie that Corwin made up." Lysandra blinked, putting the pieces together. "You mean that girl actually liked you? But Corwin lied and said you were married so he could steal her from you. And this whole bitter rivalry between you two brothers is all because of that girl?" I sighed. "Lysandra, you come from such a big, sophisticated family. Try to speak with some decency. Seraphine isn't a prize to be stolen. She was just cruelly fooled by Corwin's lies. She's not a bad girl." Lysandra laughed mockingly. "Wow, I feel so bad for her already. She clearly only has Corwin in her heart. There's absolutely no place for you in there. Yet here you are, defending her honor. Don't you think you're acting like a total fool?" What she said was harsh, but it was absolutely right. Seraphine thought I was a terrible person, and yet I was still trying to protect her at every turn. What was this if not one-sided, pathetic madness? I looked at Lysandra angrily and said, "After today, don't come back here to eat. You and your friends have spent a lot of money here these past few days. I know they only come here because you forced them to. But this isn't right. I don't feel good earning money like this from pity." She rolled her eyes. "You're the owner of the shop, and we're your paying customers. We're spending our money here of our own free will. What's wrong with you? Tell me clearly. Do you want me to do some special favor for you? Because my capabilities are limited. I can't necessarily solve all your life's problems." Then she smirked. "It seems you're not entirely stupid after all." Lysandra suddenly sat down on a stool next to me, looked at me with a calculating smile, and said, "I want you to be my boyfriend." I jumped up from my seat as if I'd been burned. The sheer surprise was evident on my face. She laughed. "Why are you so surprised? Do you also think I'm too ugly?" Actually, she wasn't ugly in the slightest. She had beautiful, striking features. She just had that prominent birthmark on her face. She sighed dramatically. "Looks like you have the same shallow taste as that idiot Corwin. You two brothers really don't have any good taste in women." I quickly defended myself. "You're from a very wealthy, powerful family. I'm just a coal miner who sells barbecue. I'm not worthy of you." She pointed at me. "You're lying to be polite. Deep down in your heart, you also think I'm not beautiful." I shook my head vigorously. "No, that's not true." She smiled triumphantly. "Then be my boyfriend. I'll give you whatever you want in return. Anything you can buy with money, I can get it for you." I asked seriously, "Lysandra, can money buy love?" She snorted. "Absolutely not." I said, "If you know that, why do you want me to be your boyfriend? You know I already have feelings for someone else." She waved her hand dismissively. "That girl? You two brothers are both crazy about her. What's so incredibly special about her? Is she special just because she's a little prettier than me? If it weren't for this stupid birthmark near my left eye, I would be 10 times prettier than her, and I wouldn't give up on fighting for you so easily. I heard her parents are in the herbal supplement business and have made a decent fortune over the past few years. But if they're operating in this city, I can drive their entire family out into the street to beg with just one phone call. Do you believe me?" I had absolutely no doubt about her family's terrifying strength. Lysandra looked at me silently and then said, "Think about it practically. Becoming my boyfriend will only benefit you. There is no harm in it for you." With that, she took out her designer phone, typed something in, and showed the screen to me. "Look at this." I took the phone, and displayed on the screen was a digital contract for the purchase of a plot of land. The seller was listed as Corwin, and the buyer was listed as Lysandra. I was stunned. "How did you get this contract?" Lysandra smiled mysteriously and said nothing. A profound, sinking thought came to my mind. I asked her, "Did you secretly buy our burned-out house?" She nodded. "Yes, I did. Is there any problem?" Your house was worth a maximum of maybe $100,000 in that condition. But I paid a full $250,000 for it. How could a greedy, pathetic person like Corwin ever turn down a deal worth $250,000? But Corwin had just told me to my face that the house was sold for only $100,000. I looked at the digital contract very carefully. It really said $250,000. I understood everything instantly. That bastard Corwin had kept $200,000 entirely for himself and just tossed me the scraps. Now I understood why he had come so politely to give me the bank card. He was covering his tracks because he had cheated me out of a fortune behind my back. Lysandra said softly, "I heard you were fiercely against selling the house because it was the last memento of your late parents. This shows me you're a really sentimental, loyal person. So listen, let's make a strict business deal. If you agree to act as my boyfriend for just 3 months, I will sign the deed of the house back over to you, and then you'll have sole, legal control over it. Corwin will have absolutely nothing to do with the property anymore. What do you say?" A piece of land worth a fortune, just for pretending for 3 months. It melted my resolve. Not for the money, but for the chance to get my ancestral home back. But I also had a lingering doubt. Why was she making such a massive, expensive effort just to make me her fake boyfriend? It obviously had nothing to do with love. She tapped her foot impatiently. "Decide like a man. Don't hesitate. People who don't make quick decisions never achieve great things in life. Tell me clearly right now. Are you ready to do this or not?" I said yes without thinking any further. I didn't expect Lysandra to immediately march straight out into the dining area and loudly announce our new relationship to everyone. Her rich friends immediately swarmed me, cheering and starting to hug me as if we'd been best friends for years. They stayed there eating and drinking until very late that day. When they finally left, Bastien came up to me, eyes wide, and said, "Leander, you've hit the absolute jackpot! Don't forget this loyal brother of yours when you're living in a mansion. I'll bring you water. I'll do whatever you ask." I sighed. "It's not as simple as you think, Bastien. I haven't just lucked out." He frowned. "Leander, it seems you don't consider me your real brother anymore." I lightly slapped him on the back of the head and said, "Mind your own business and go clean the grill. Stop thinking nonsense." He rubbed his head and said, "Leander, by the way, I want to ask you something serious. How did things between you and Corwin get to this toxic point? Was it all because of Seraphine?" "The truth is, even if you don't tell me, I already know that you've liked Seraphine since childhood. Just hearing Seraphine's name made my chest ache." I gave a faint, sad smile and didn't reply. The next morning, as soon as I finished my breakfast, Lysandra arrived to meet me. She declared, "Leander, as my boyfriend, isn't it your official duty to go shopping with me?" I replied, wiping my hands. "Lysandra, I'm just a fake boyfriend." She crossed her arms. "Fake or real, you are my boyfriend in public, aren't you?" I sighed. "I don't have time for this. I have to go buy ingredients for the shop." She waved her hand dismissively. "You can leave that trivial stuff to Bastien. Your job today is just to keep me company and keep me happy. And don't worry about money. If necessary, I'll cover all your expenses." I looked up, trying to argue, but finally, she practically forced me into her luxury car. Lysandra was driving a sleek open-top convertible. She was dressed simply today, and even without heavy makeup, she looked strikingly beautiful and confident. After a while, the car pulled up outside a very expensive, high-end shopping district. Lysandra dragged me straight to the designer men's clothing section on the 4th floor of a boutique. She wanted to buy me several outfits, but I wasn't comfortable accepting such expensive gifts, so I politely refused. She frowned and asked, "Didn't you like any of the clothes here?" I said, "That's not the case at all. I already have perfectly fine clothes to wear." Lysandra looked me up and down critically and said, "With your terrible dressing sense, no girl in my circle will even look at you. You look so simple and poor. And now that you're publicly my boyfriend, even if you don't care about your own image, you should think about mine. If I take you out to events with me and you're seen in such cheap, old clothes, it would be a massive embarrassment for me." She snapped her fingers and told the eager salesperson to bring the most expensive, exclusive clothes from their back room. The salesperson quickly realized that money wasn't an issue for this customer. She was overjoyed and brought out several tailored suits, saying, "Sir, you can try these on in the fitting room to see if the size is right." Lysandra waved her hand imperiously and said, "There's no need for him to try them on. Just pack them all up." She behaved exactly like a stereotypical spoiled rich girl. The total bill for those 3 outfits came to nearly $5,000. I was shocked and whispered urgently, "Let it be, Lysandra. They're way too expensive. These fancy clothes won't even look good on me." Lysandra merely glanced at me and said, "Am I short on money?" Swipe my card. I remained silent, feeling entirely out of my depth. My legs were aching after walking around the massive mall for so long. Lysandra finally took me to a quiet, upscale cafe nearby to rest. A moment later, the bell above the door chimed, and 3 people entered. The world really is incredibly small. The arrivals were none other than Corwin and Seraphine, accompanied by a man in a sharp business suit. Lysandra and I were sitting in a secluded corner booth, so they didn't spot us. After the 3 of them sat down a few tables away, the man in the suit smiled professionally and said, "Mr. Corwin and Miss Seraphine, your taste is really exceptional. The layout and ventilation of that particular house is excellent." They were planning to buy a new house. Lysandra took a delicate sip of her expensive coffee and whispered to me, "So they're buying a new house. It seems they're planning on getting married soon." Hearing about them getting married sent a strange, sharp pang through my heart. Corwin said, "Manager Sterling, that's all for today. We'll discuss the details a bit privately, and if all goes well, we'll give you a call to finalize things." The manager nodded politely. "Excellent. I'll eagerly wait for your call." After the agent left, Corwin turned to Seraphine and asked tenderly, "How did you like the house, honey? Are you happy with it?" Seraphine nodded enthusiastically and said, "I love it. It's just that the asking price is a little high." Corwin smiled reassuringly. "There's always high demand for good houses in that district, so it's perfectly normal for the price to be steep. If you really like it, we'll put down the deposit today. I've even sold my old family property to help pay for it. As a man, I can't live off your family's generosity forever. I know you won't mind, but if too much time passes, your parents might start to feel bad about my financial situation. It might seem like I'm using you. So I need to secure my own house first." Corwin took Seraphine's hand in his and continued his performance. "Your parents told us to get engaged soon, right? Getting engaged without me even owning a house won't look good in front of their wealthy friends." Seraphine smiled affectionately and said, "But you only got $50,000 from selling your house, and I can only give you $50,000 from my savings right now. The down payment for that house is $200,000. Corwin sighed nobly. "We'll make a smaller down payment first, and I'll work hard to pay the rest gradually. You don't think I'm too weak to provide for you, do you?" He paused, looking down modestly. "But to be perfectly honest, your family background is so prestigious. Your parents are very successful, and I don't even have my own property yet. Living with me will require you to make a lot of painful compromises." Seraphine squeezed his hand. "Corwin, what are you saying? You're so incredibly good to me, and you literally saved my life from a fire. How could I ever think you're weak? And after all, you just graduated top of your class. I'm absolutely sure you'll achieve great success in the corporate world." She thought for a moment. "So let's do this. I'll go home and talk to my parents and see if they can lend us the remaining $100,000 so we can buy the house with the full down payment to secure the best mortgage rate. We'll treat it like a strict loan and pay them back with interest later." Corwin looked hesitant. "How can I do that? I'm a proud man. I can't live on your parents' money." Seraphine laughed softly. "Do you still think of me as a stranger?" Corwin laughed in return and said, "You're right. We're going to get married anyway, and in the future, everything of yours is going to be mine." Seraphine's face flushed with deep embarrassment and love. I sat there, gripping my coffee cup. Corwin had made $250,000 by selling the old house behind my back, but he blatantly lied to Seraphine, claiming his half was only $50,000. In this sickening way, he wanted to guilt Seraphine into borrowing a massive sum from her parents, make the full down payment using their money, and then get the deed to the house registered entirely in his own name. He was incredibly cunning and manipulative. Lysandra suddenly slammed her cup down and said angrily, "Just looking at these two makes my blood physically boil. Leander, let's go somewhere else. I can't stand breathing the same air as such vile people. I will never come back to this cafe again." The noise drew their attention. Corwin and Seraphine looked over at our booth. Pure anger was immediately evident in Corwin's eyes, but remembering Lysandra's power, he didn't dare say a word. Seraphine, however, stood up from her table and marched over. "We've already tolerated a lot of your insults, but you're crossing the line now. I know Corwin foolishly tried to court you in college, but that's a thing of the distant past. So why are you constantly being so incredibly petty and intolerant?" Corwin scrambled over, trying to grab her arm and whispering for her to calm down. Seraphine ignored him and glared at Lysandra. "Even though you're the spoiled daughter of the Vance family, you can't just mock someone's self-respect in public like this." Lysandra laughed sharply. The word self-respect sounds so incredibly strange coming from your mouth. Aren't you too ashamed? One is a heartless manipulator, and the other is completely blind. If I say you two are a perfect match made in heaven, there would be absolutely nothing wrong with that. Seraphine's face flushed with anger. Even though I may be blind to some things, I understand basic right and wrong. I know who is genuinely good and who is bad in this world. Lysandra leaned back in her chair. A few days ago, this guy sitting next to me told you he liked you, and now you're happily hanging out with this known cheater. It's absolutely appropriate for a blind, foolish girl like you. Seraphine scoffed. You're the blind one. Can there be any possible comparison between Corwin and Leander? I think Leander has absolutely no worth compared to Corwin. She pointed at Corwin. Look at Corwin's face yourself. He wears glasses, he's educated, he's ambitious. Lysandra interrupted. He wears those glasses just to trick people into thinking he's a smart, decent graduate. So what if he has a piece of paper? He's a greedy, deceitful snake who will remain a snake his entire life. On the other hand, Leander may not have finished school because he sacrificed himself for that snake, but he's a very loyal and pure-hearted person, and I happen to like him very much. Now, tell me. Seraphine's face turned white with furious indignation. He's loyal? I don't think so at all. Lysandra said, That's exactly why I said you're completely blind. Seraphine crossed her arms and challenged. So, okay then. Miss Vance, why don't you tell me just how great and loyal Leander is? What heroic deeds has he ever done for anyone? Lysandra took a deep breath, stood up, and slowly walked over to Corwin, looking him up and down with intense disgust. Corwin's face was contorted with fear. He looked incredibly uncomfortable and wanted to run. Lysandra turned back to Seraphine. Seraphine, do you really, truly think this bastard is such a good man? Corwin couldn't find a place to hide his face under Lysandra's piercing gaze. She continued, her voice echoing in the quiet cafe. I'll tell you the ugly truth. At first, he tried absolutely everything to pursue me in college. But later, I found out through my family's investigators that he was having affairs with multiple women simultaneously, and that many of those poor girls even had to get abortions because of him. Isn't a person who routinely ruins women's lives like this a disgusting cheater? On the other hand, Leander has always loved only you. He worked in a coal mine to pay for this cheater's education. So you tell me, who is the one truly loyal? Corwin panicked and quickly stammered, Seraphine, please don't pay any attention to her toxic nonsense. I'm not that kind of person at all. During college, I was solely focused on my demanding studies. I didn't have the time or energy for all this nonsense she's making up. Seraphine looked at Corwin for a long moment and then said softly, Corwin, you don't need to frantically explain yourself to me. I've known you for so many years. I know exactly what kind of person you are. Hearing her continued blind faith, I felt a terrible, heavy pain in my heart, and I was so angry at her stubbornness. I stood up and said, Lysandra, just stop it. No matter what evidence you present, she will never, ever believe you. Lysandra looked at me with pity. You literally risked your life to save her from the fire, but she blindly gave all the credit to this vile person. Leander, everything you ever did for her was absolutely useless. But as long as you're good to me, I will take care of everything in the world for you. With that, she grabbed my hand tightly and said, I was in a perfectly good mood today, but it's completely ruined because of these two toxic people. Leander, let's get out of here. I desperately wanted to confront Corwin and ask for the stolen money back from selling the house, but Lysandra forcibly pulled me out the door. Before leaving, I glanced back and noticed a slight, lingering suspicion in Seraphine's eyes as she looked at Corwin for the first time. After hearing everything Lysandra said with such conviction, she was perhaps beginning to slowly understand that Corwin wasn't exactly what he seemed. But Corwin was an absolute master at lying and manipulation, so he wouldn't give up his charade easily. As we walked out of the upscale shopping market, we suddenly found our path blocked by two tall, heavily muscled thugs dressed in black suits. Lysandra frowned and said imperiously, Get out of my way. She probably recognized them from her social circles. One of the massive thugs crossed his arms and said respectfully but firmly, Miss Vance, our boss respectfully wants to invite you to a private dinner tonight. Please come with us quietly. Lysandra scoffed loudly. If he invites me, does that mean I legally have to go? Am I one of his disposable friends? Am I his puppet on a string? This is such a pathetic joke. Go back and tell Theron that I am absolutely not interested in him. And tell him I now have a boyfriend. He should never bother calling or approaching me again. Lysandra prominently held my hand up at that moment to prove her point. The two thugs looked at me with cold, dead eyes. One stepped forward and said menacingly, "Miss Vance, you'd better say this to Mr. Theron yourself." With that, they lunged forward and tried to forcibly grab Lysandra by the arms to drag her away. Lysandra was completely powerless against their brute strength, unable to defend herself. She screamed in terror, "Leander, save me!" I bared my teeth in rage and lunged forward to intercept them. But before I could even land a punch, the larger thug kicked me squarely in the chest, knocking me violently to the pavement. The thug pointed a massive finger at my face and growled, "Boy, if you want to keep breathing, get out of here quietly right now." My stubborn, miner's nature flared up again. I scrambled to my feet, let out a roar, and leaped forward, tackling them both with sheer momentum and knocking them to the ground. I yelled at Lysandra, "Run! Get out of here!" The thug grunted as they scrambled up. "But you!" I interrupted. "I won't be able to hold these monsters off for long. You run to the car!" I grabbed both of them tightly by their jackets, trying to pin their arms. I was absolutely no match for trained fighters when it came to a technical brawl. But having worked swinging a pickaxe in the deep mines for 4 years, I possessed a massive amount of raw, desperate strength. Lysandra hesitated for a split second, looking at me in shock, but then she turned, sprinted to her convertible, and sped away safely. Both thugs easily broke my grip, got up, and started kicking me brutally in the ribs and stomach while I was on the ground. One of them spat blood and shouted, "Leave this trash here and chase her car!" Both of them abandoned me and sprinted toward their own parked SUV. Just then, Corwin and Seraphine walked out of the cafe and saw my battered, bleeding condition on the sidewalk. Corwin smirked and said sarcastically, "It's not easy to live on a rich family's money, is it? Do you really think that spoiled rich girl loves you? She just left you to get beaten. She's just playing with you like a toy." Seraphine, however, ran over to me, her face pale. She knelt down, tried to help me sit up, and asked with genuine concern, "Are you okay? Are you badly hurt?" Corwin walked over, grabbed her arm angrily, and yanked her back. "Seraphine, it's exactly what he deserves. There's no need to feel bad for a thug." He glared at me with disgust, tightened his grip on Seraphine's hand, and started to lead her forcibly away. I coughed, holding my ribs, and said, "Nothing serious happened to me. These minor injuries are absolutely no big deal to me. I've suffered much worse than a few kicks in those mines over the past 4 years." Seraphine furrowed her brows deeply, her eyes once again filled with swirling questions and doubt. Corwin gritted his teeth, realizing my words were affecting her, and said, "This is the direct result of your own greedy actions. Seraphine, get away from him." He was clearly terrified that Seraphine might stay and figure out the truth, so he quickly pulled her down the street and out of sight. A few agonizing minutes later, as I finally limped out of the shopping district, a sleek open-top car screeched to a halt in front of me. Lysandra leaned over and asked breathlessly, "Leander, are you okay?" "If you hadn't fought them off to help me today, those monsters would have taken me away to Theron." Thank you so much." She jumped out of the car and began inspecting my bruised face and clutching my arms carefully. I forced a smile and said, "It was just a few kicks to the ribs. It's really no big deal." I looked down the road and asked, "Did you manage to lose them?" She laughed, a sound of pure relief, and said, "It's easy for me to outrun their bulky SUV in this car. Get in. I'm taking you to the private hospital right now." I shook my head stubbornly. "I really don't need to go to the hospital," she asked, searching my eyes. "Are you really okay?" I nodded affirmatively. She smiled a brilliant smile and said, "Okay. You literally saved my life today. So what can I possibly give you in return? Why don't I treat you to the most wonderful dinner in the city?" She playfully forced me into the passenger seat and drove us to an incredibly exclusive, expensive restaurant downtown. The menu prices there were astronomical, and she deliberately ordered the absolute most expensive items on the list, including imported wine. The total bill for the extravagant food and drinks came to over $1,000. As we finished dessert, she asked, "Are you full?" To be perfectly honest, the portions were so small I was only half full. But after seeing the outrageous prices on the menu, I quickly nodded and said, "Okay, yes, I'm completely stuffed." Lysandra reached into her designer purse to take out her phone to pay via digital wallet. But suddenly, her face froze, and she gasped in mock horror. "Oh no! I don't have any money left on this linked card! She had already spent thousands on my new clothes earlier that day." I sighed, thinking I'd just transfer the last of my savings to her account and tell the waiter I would cover this dinner. But Lysandra took one look at my serious face, giggled, and asked, "Do you have enough money to cover this? No? Then follow my lead." I confusedly followed her as she stood up and calmly walked toward the front doors. Just as we reached the exit, she suddenly grabbed my hand tightly and yelled, "Run!" Before I even knew what was happening, she yanked me out the doors and onto the busy street. The restaurant staff immediately realized what was happening and ran out after us, shouting furiously, "Hey! You've come here for free food? Catch them! Don't let those thieves escape!" We sprinted wildly, weaving through crowds, crossed two busy intersections, and finally threw ourselves into the dense bushes behind a public park. The waiters couldn't find us in the dark and eventually gave up, walking back while loudly cursing our existence. Lysandra, panting heavily from the sprint, lay back on the grass and laughed. "You had to run so hard just to save $1,000. I almost died. I took a deep breath, clutching my aching ribs. I looked at her and asked incredulously, "Miss Vance, won't the manager recognize us from security cameras? That's fine for me. I'm nobody. But if this gets out to the press, it will completely ruin your prominent family's reputation." She propped herself up on her elbows and asked with a wicked grin, "Do you know who owns that pretentious restaurant?" I shook my head in confusion. She added, her eyes gleaming in the moonlight, "It belongs to Theron's family. And the thugs we encountered earlier were his private men." That's when it finally clicked. I realized she had absolutely no shortage of money in her accounts. She just didn't want to pay her enemy a single dime and wanted to cause a scene at his establishment. I couldn't help but burst into genuine laughter. She looked at me, pretending to be angry, and demanded, "Why are you laughing like a crazy person?" She looked at me nervously, then suddenly looked down at her own clothes. She must have misunderstood why I was laughing. I quickly waved my hands and replied, "No, it's nothing like that. I was just incredibly surprised that a refined, rich girl like you could do something so wild and reckless." She sat up and said defensively, "So what? Aren't rich girls human too? We get bored." She peered through the bushes. "They're gone. Let's get out of here." Just as she stood up quickly to leave, I heard a sharp tearing noise, and I looked up, completely stunned. A piece of Lysandra's designer jacket had gotten caught on a thick thorn branch, causing her front zipper to tear completely open. We both froze, staring for a split second. The very next moment, she let out a loud scream and immediately threw her hands over her exposed chest. She yelled angrily, her face burning red, "Are you still looking at me? If you look for one more second, I'll gouge your eyes out." I immediately snapped my gaze away, staring fixedly at the dirt. Lysandra frantically tried to hold her torn jacket closed and angrily stomped out of the bushes. When I followed her out to the sidewalk, her face was still flushed, bright red with deep embarrassment, and she was looking at me with a very strange, intense expression. She pointed a warning finger at me and said, "Leander, I'm telling you this up front right now. Even though you're officially my boyfriend, you shouldn't have any dirty, negative thoughts about me until I explicitly say yes. If you try to force anything with me, I won't let you live." I raised my hands in surrender and said honestly, "I completely understand. I'm just your fake, contracted boyfriend anyway." She huffed, adjusting her grip on her jacket. "Yeah, that's right. Just remember that." She then reached out and held my hand tightly again as we walked back to where she'd parked the car. That afternoon, I said goodbye to Lysandra. I went straight to my barbecue stall to help prep for the evening rush and saw Seraphine's recognizable BMW parked directly outside. Was Corwin back to cause another violent scene? The young waiter saw me approaching and ran out, saying, "Boss, that Miss Seraphine from yesterday is back, and she's sitting inside talking intensely with Bastien." I walked straight to the back room, and standing quietly by the slightly open door, I heard Bastien defending me passionately. "Seraphine, we've all been friends together since childhood. I'm absolutely certain that Leander is not the terrible person you think he is. There's definitely a serious, orchestrated misunderstanding between the two of you, and I can clearly see that Leander only has eyes for you. He also loves only you. But now that you're with Corwin, I can only imagine the silent agony he's going through." Seraphine scoffed in disbelief. "Bastien, do you even know that Leander is secretly married?" Bastien gasped, completely shocked. "That is absolutely impossible. There is no way he's married," Seraphine stated confidently. "I heard it from a reliable source." Bastien shook his head vigorously. "Leander and I have been running this grueling barbecue stall together for almost a month now, and we're side by side day and night. If Leander was really married to a rich family, his wife would have called him or visited at some point. He sleeps on a cot in the back room. There's no possible way I wouldn't know anything about a marriage." Bastien leaned closer and asked, "Seraphine, who told you all these lies? Was it Corwin?" Seraphine hesitated, then said defensively, "Yes, They're real brothers. Why would Corwin ever joke about such a serious, life-altering matter? He told me that Leander was married a long time ago and is living as a kept son-in-law with a wealthy, powerful family. He also told me that Leander only sent him a tiny bit of pocket money when Corwin was in college, and that's why Leander feels so entitled, thinking he paid for his entire education, and that this financial jealousy was the root reason for the animosity between the two brothers. Bastian slammed his hand on the prep table. No! That is a complete, fabricated lie! Last month, when I first met up with Leander, he told me the truth over beers. After leaving school, he went straight to work at Draven's dangerous coal mine. For 4 grueling years, he had only worked as a manual laborer deep in the mine, and just before he returned to the city, the mine completely collapsed, burying him alive. Whatever small amount of money he has is his own blood and sweat earned money, not something he got for free from a rich wife. Seraphine, you are seriously, dangerously mistaken about Leander. Coal mine? Seraphine's voice suddenly changed, trembling with a sudden influx of doubt and realization. Just then, the waiter called out loudly from the front, "Boss, a new table of customers has arrived." I pushed open the door and walked in, pretending I hadn't heard anything. "Bastian, a big group just arrived outside. Don't you want to get to work?" Bastian saw my downcast, carefully neutral face, bowed his head in understanding, and quietly walked out to the grills. I turned to the table and said coldly, "Miss Seraphine, you'd better not come here to eat again today. In this place, you are not welcome." With that dismissal, I turned around and started to leave the room. "Wait!" Seraphine yelled, jumping up and standing directly in front of me, blocking the door. She looked up into my eyes and asked very seriously, her voice trembling slightly, "Are you really not married?" I looked back at her with a deadpan expression and said, "I'm married. Whether it actually happened or not, does it even matter to you anymore?" Seraphine's face turned pale with a sudden flash of anger and desperation. She suddenly reached out, grabbed my right hand, forcibly opened my curled fingers, and stared down at my palm, looking completely astonished. I had worked incredibly hard, swinging a pickaxe in the coal mines for 4 years, leaving my entire palm covered in hard, thick, yellow calluses and deep scars. After so many days of rest, the blisters on my hands had started to heal into thick, rough skin. But these were absolutely not the soft, manicured hands of a wealthy live-in son-in-law. Seraphine's eyes immediately turned red with unshed tears as she traced the rough scars. "Leander, your hands!" I yanked my hand back roughly and said bitterly, "This is just the inevitable fate of us uneducated laborers." With that, I shoved my hand deep into my pocket. "Did you really leave school and ruin your future just so you could pay for your brother's college education?" Seraphine's face looked utterly devastated and embarrassed. Her eyes were wildly confused, as if she'd been struck by lightning and deeply shocked by the revelation of Corwin's massive deception. I said coldly, "I don't have a brother anymore, nor do I have any family relations. Now, I only care about making money." Seraphine took a step closer and asked again, her voice breaking, "Did you really save me when the house caught fire that night?" I burst out laughing, a harsh, humorless sound. Why would a deceitful, jealous person like me ever risk his own life to save you? "Miss Seraphine, you're overthinking things. The brave man who saved you was Corwin. Only an educated gentleman like him could act like a true hero, saving a damsel in distress. Now, if you'll excuse me, the paying customers have arrived. I'm going to work. You can show yourself out." With that, I walked out with a stern, unyielding expression. Seraphine's face was a mask of utter turmoil as she slowly left the restaurant. She kept looking back at me over her shoulder. It took her a full minute just to walk the few meters to her car. Just after she finally drove away, a young man sitting arrogantly at a nearby table snapped his fingers and called out, "Hey! Call your boss over here!" I turned around and saw the young man, who looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit and had a very confident, arrogant air about him, making him seem exactly like a spoiled brat from an extremely wealthy family. I wiped my hands on an apron, walked up to him, and said neutrally, "Hello, I'm the boss." He looked me up and down with clear disdain, and took a slow sip of the expensive bottled water he had brought with him. His long, uncalloused fingers clearly indicated he was a pampered heir. He asked in a drawl, "Your name is Leander?" I nodded. He asked with a smirk, "Do you know who I am?" I shook my head, confused. He leaned forward and said, "My surname is Theron. Is Theron the same Theron who owns the club and the restaurant? Seeing my expression instantly change to recognition, Theron smiled maliciously and said, "It seems you figured out exactly who I am, so let's be perfectly straight with each other. Lysandra isn't someone a street rat like you can just stare at, let alone date. Stay far away from her. Name whatever price you want to cancel, whatever deal you have with her." So he had come here personally just to flex his financial power and intimidate me. The truth was, there was just a simple, temporary contract between Lysandra and me. I would act as her boyfriend for 3 months, and she would legally return my ancestral property to me. At first, I didn't fully understand why she was going to such extreme lengths, but now I understood clearly that I was just a convenient pawn used to make this guy jealous or force him to cancel their arranged engagement. But since I had made a firm promise to her, I had to keep it as a man. I leaned on the table and said casually, "Theron, brother, if you're so confident in saying that, then I have to ask you a simple question. If you have so much incredible wealth and power, why does Lysandra desperately want absolutely nothing to do with you?" Theron's face instantly turned bright red with furious anger. He slammed his hand violently on the metal table and hissed, "Leander, I'm being very polite to you by offering a buyout. I'm being nice. Don't ever forget your pathetic place in society. I'm not talking nonsense. I can completely turn your miserable little world upside down in a single minute. I'm sure if you can't understand what I've just explained to you with money and kindness, do you really want to force me to mess with you?" I laughed weakly, pretending to be intimidated, and said, "How would a guy like me dare?" Theron pointed his nose haughtily at me and declared, "I'm only giving you exactly 3 days to decide. If you don't publicly break up with Lysandra by then, don't blame me for my exceptionally bad behavior." With that final threat, he violently kicked his chair back and stormed out of the stall. Bastien ran over to me, holding a spatula, and asked worriedly, "Leander, who the hell was that guy? He was showing a massive amount of attitude." I sighed, rubbing my temples. "He's someone from a world we absolutely can't mess with." Bastien frowned deeply and said, "Really? So, can Miss Vance mess with him? Miss Vance protects this place now, right?" I just stared at him silently and didn't say a word. Later, as the dinner rush business at the shop increased, I got distracted and temporarily forgot about his dire threat. 3 days later, I was working late in the back kitchen at night when I suddenly heard the terrifying sounds of glass breaking and people screaming outside. I ran out from the back and saw that more than 20 muscular men dressed in black were systematically ransacking the dining area. Terrified customers were fleeing for their lives out the exits, and expensive ingredients and shattered plates were scattered all over the floor. Bastien, completely enraged at seeing our hard work destroyed, grabbed a heavy metal pan and charged forward to fight them. I quickly grabbed him and pulled him back. "Bastien, calm down! We can't fight them all!" As the thugs finally finished their destruction and turned to leave, one of the goons pointed a metal pipe directly at me and sneered, "Mr. Theron said he only showed you a small movie trailer today. If you still refuse to listen to his generous offer, be prepared for the deadly consequences of the full feature film." After they piled into their vans and left, all the remaining customers vanished as well, refusing to pay their bills. Bastien and I were on our hands and knees, miserably collecting the scattered, ruined goods when Lysandra suddenly arrived with 7 or 8 of her rich friends. Seeing the chaotic, destroyed state of the shop, she panicked, ran over, and asked, "Leander, what on earth happened here?" I shook my head, not wanting to drag her further down, and said quietly, "Nothing. Just a bar fight." Bastien quickly stood up and shouted, "Miss Vance! A huge gang of thugs deliberately vandalized our entire shop." I glared at him angrily to shut him up. Lysandra went absolutely berserk. "How is this possible? Bastien, who exactly did this? I'll definitely get you justice and make them pay." Bastien stammered, intimidated by my glare, and looked at me helplessly. I didn't want to escalate the gang war matter. Lysandra marched over to me and angrily demanded, "Leander, why aren't you saying anything? Who ordered these men to vandalize all this? Look how upset you both are. You are publicly my boyfriend. Vandalizing your business means directly insulting me and my family. How can we possibly tolerate all this?" Her rich friends also started speaking up indignantly, egging her on. Finally, Bastien couldn't help himself and blurted out, "Miss Vance, this attack was entirely orchestrated by a rich guy named Theron. 3 days ago, he came to visit Leander personally and threatened him to stay away from you. When Leander bravely didn't listen to his buyout offer, he orchestrated this massive attack as revenge." "Theron!" Lysandra gritted her perfectly white teeth. He dared to abuse my boyfriend. This arrogant bastard has completely crossed all acceptable limits. I smiled tiredly and said, "It's no big deal, really. We can clean it up. I'll bear the cost," Bastian said angrily. "Leander, is this a small matter to you? That bastard even threatened to kill me on his way out. I think that psychopath won't let you off so easily in the future. Don't be afraid. We should let Miss Vance handle this matter." Lysandra thought rapidly for a moment and then turned to her friends. "Don't make a scene here. Help them clean up the debris. We're closing early because the shop was targeted." Lysandra then told her friends to leave and ordered me into the passenger seat of her car. "I'm so incredibly sorry. I never in a million years thought Theron would resort to harassing you like this." Lysandra's face was filled with genuine embarrassment and guilt as she drove. I looked out the window and said, "Didn't you intentionally use me as your human shield from the very start? It was just a business deal that benefited both of us. You get rid of him, I get my house back. So you really don't need to apologize to me for the collateral damage. I'll definitely keep my promise to pretend. Just don't go back on your word regarding the property deed." She glanced at me and asked, "Did you find out everything about my situation?" I said dryly, "I'm a cook, not an idiot." Lysandra continued driving smoothly through the night traffic. "Actually, Theron and I are formally engaged to be married, but it absolutely wasn't my personal choice. Our powerful parents decided it for business reasons when we were just kids. He's the biggest, most disgusting cheater and sociopath I've ever met in my life. So I have to find a way to break this engagement at any cost necessary." I sighed, rubbing my face. "If I'd known you were engaged to a mafia boss, I never would have said yes to this crazy deal. Why did you choose a nobody like me to be your fake boyfriend? He's a powerful billionaire, and I'm practically a homeless beggar compared to him." She smiled softly and said, "Because you're a genuinely brave and loyal person. That day on the street, when I was in serious trouble with his goons, you risked your own life to fight them and save me, and you told me to run away. That action proves I chose the absolute right person for this job. You're not anything like your bastard brother Corwin, who's deceitful, greedy, and mean to the bone. He's a total, irredeemable jerk." Lysandra looked at me with a brilliant smile and asked, "Do you want to get a drink to calm your nerves?" I have a very intelligent, foolproof plan in mind. I was feeling incredibly stressed and battered, so I nodded in agreement. Lysandra drove us to a very exclusive, private nightclub nearby. The alcohol she ordered was incredibly strong, and by the time I finally realized I'd drunk way too much, it was far too late. The room was spinning terribly around me, but Lysandra, sipping slowly, was perfectly composed. She leaned over the table, looked at me intently, and said, "I finally have a surefire way to make Theron angrily break off this engagement himself, and it's very, very easy." I slurred, trying to focus on her face. "What way?" She looked at me with a seductive smile and whispered, "Let's turn this fake boyfriend drama into a reality. When Theron finds out we actually slept together, his massive ego will force him to back off on his own. Turn the drama into reality." My head was spinning violently. I quickly shook my head, no with all the willpower I had left. Lysandra laughed a musical laugh and said, "Since you nodded and agreed, let's go ahead with my brilliant plan." Oh God, I clearly remember shaking my head no. But I was so blindingly drunk, I honestly don't remember a single thing that happened after that moment. When I finally woke up, sunlight was streaming in. It was the next morning. I was lying in a massive, luxurious hotel bed, and Lysandra was sitting right next to me, fully dressed, looking down at me with a highly mischievous smile. I instantly sensed something was horribly wrong. I frantically pulled the thick duvet away and saw to my absolute horror that I was only in my underwear. She said calmly, sipping room service coffee, "What are you looking around for now? You've already lost your innocent dignity to me." I was absolutely furious. I woke up, my dignity robbed without my consent. Who could I even complain to in this situation? I yelled, my voice cracking. "Lysandra, are you completely out of your mind? Are you really such a low-life, manipulative woman?" Lysandra's face changed in a flash of anger. She suddenly threw the coffee aside, climbed onto the bed, sat heavily on top of my chest, grabbed me by the throat, and demanded, "Who exactly are you calling a low-life woman? I'm just pretending for the cameras, understand? Do you really think I actually did something dirty to you while you were passed out? If something had really happened between us last night, it would have been my massive loss, not yours. What kind of an ungrateful person are you? You don't even know how to treat women with basic decency. You really hurt my feelings." Suddenly, the heavy hotel door clicked open. The person holding the keycard was a terrified hotel staff member, and standing menacingly right behind them was a well-dressed, elderly couple. The woman was dressed very elegantly in designer clothes, and the man was in a sharp, bespoke suit with a terrifyingly stern face. I quickly yanked the thick blanket up to cover myself completely and looked at Lysandra in absolute panic. Lysandra's face turned stark pale, an expression of genuine shock. She immediately jumped off the bed, bowed her head submissively, and whispered, "Mom, Dad." My heart skipped a massive beat. I was in a terrible, life-threatening mess now. I literally couldn't breathe out of sheer fear. Lysandra's mother saw the rumpled state of the bed and didn't know what to say, her mouth hanging open. Lysandra had still been holding me tightly by the throat just seconds prior. I was completely lost for words. I stammered out, "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, I'm the one who fell onto the bed. Are you happy now?" Lysandra grimaced at my stupid excuse and muttered, "No, I wanted them to hear something else." Her father asked in a very stern, booming voice that echoed in the room, "You didn't come home last night? Were you hiding here in this hotel with this boy all night?" Lysandra kept her head bowed and said meekly, "Yes." Her father, enraged beyond belief, raised his hand as if to strike her. I quickly shouted from the bed, "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, please, you're completely misunderstanding the situation. Absolutely nothing intimate happened between me and Lysandra." Lysandra immediately interrupted, crying out, "Mom, Dad, he's lying to protect himself. Absolutely everything happened between us last night." She turned and glared at me with fake, tearful betrayal. "Leander, are you really a man? Why are you suddenly so afraid to admit the truth when you were bold enough to bring me to this hotel room? You've disappointed me so much." She was literally on the verge of fake tears. I was dumbfounded. I thought she had paid someone to bring my unconscious body here. I desperately wanted to explain myself further, but her father yelled, his face purple with rage, "Lysandra, you have brought absolute shame to our entire family name! Get out of here right now and never show your disgraceful face to me again!" He was about to step forward and raise his hand again, but Lysandra quickly hid behind her mother's back. Her mother gave me a very strange, calculating look and told her husband softly, "Whatever had to happen has already happened behind closed doors. Hitting him or her won't change the facts now." Her father pointed a shaking finger. "You always defend her reckless behavior! If you hadn't pampered her since childhood, would she have acted like a common street girl today?" If this scandalous news reaches the Theron family, if it does arrive, how will we ever face them in the boardroom? He turned on his heel and left the room angrily. Lysandra sniffled and said to her mother, "Mom, I don't like Theron at all. The whole world knows he's a violent playboy. I will never marry a monster like him. I only truly love Leander. If I ever marry anyone in this world, it will only be Leander." Lysandra pointed dramatically at me in the bed. Her mother sighed deeply, rubbing her temples, and said, "Lysandra, even if you desperately didn't want to marry Theron, you absolutely shouldn't have taken such a drastic, permanent step. After all, you're a girl of high standing. You should have respected your own dignity and our family's honor." Lysandra said shamelessly, putting a hand over her heart, "Mom, I know. But I love Leander so much that I simply couldn't help myself last night. Now the blame for seducing her was entirely on my shoulders." Lysandra's mother looked at me with deep disappointment. She sighed and said, "Let the boy get dressed first. I've been waiting for you both in the lobby for a long time." After her parents left the room, closing the door behind them, Lysandra immediately dropped the crying act and sported a huge, incredibly triumphant smile on her face. "Leander, now when you go downstairs and meet my mom, no matter what she says or threatens you with, all you have to do is insist that you passionately love me and desperately want to be with me forever. If you say even one wrong word to her, you can forget about getting your ancestral home back forever." I glared at her while pulling my pants on. "This entire scenario was all your calculated plan, wasn't it? You deliberately leaked our location and called your parents to this specific hotel room so they could catch us and have this exact misunderstanding." She smiled brightly and said, "Yes, I did. I am very, very smart." I just rolled my eyes in intense anger and finished dressing. We left the hotel room and took the elevator down. Her mother was standing in the courtyard under a large shade tree. I was walking very slowly, dreading the confrontation. Lysandra grabbed my hand and yanked me forward, whispering, "Come on, let's hurry up. What are you so afraid of? My mom won't literally eat you. Mom, we're here." "Leander, say a proper hello to her." I mustered up all my fake courage and bowed slightly. "Hello, Mrs. Vance. My name is Leander. She looked down her nose at me. I know your name. Lysandra. You go and get in the back of the car. I need to talk to Leander completely alone. Lysandra squeezed my hand. Okay, you guys talk. As she walked away, she shot me a heavy, threatening look over her shoulder, a clear indication of what I had to say to secure my house. After Lysandra left earshot, her mother looked me up and down like I was a piece of cheap meat and asked, How long have you and my daughter known each other? When exactly did you two get into a romantic relationship? I want you to tell me absolutely everything honestly. Can you look me in the eye and tell me the truth? To get my parents' home back, I had to fully support Lysandra's insane lie. I straightened my posture and said, We've known each other for quite a long time, but we only recently got into a serious relationship. She stared directly into my soul and asked, Is that the absolute truth? I nodded confidently, keeping a straight face. She asked, her tone sharpening, Do you know that Lysandra is formally engaged to a very powerful man? I said firmly, Yes, ma'am, I know. She crossed her arms. If you knew she was spoken for, why did you agree to come to a hotel with her? Are you just playing a game with her love to get her money? I said, putting a hand on my chest. Mrs. Vance, I haven't betrayed her love for a single second. Absolutely not. She asked with a faint, cynical smile. So do you really, truly love my daughter? It had gotten to this point of no return, so I had to say the words. Yes, I do love her deeply. She probed further. Don't you find her facial birthmark ugly, or do you have some other hidden financial motive? Her intense gaze seemed to penetrate deeply into my mind, and I was terrified of slipping up. I said smoothly, Mrs. Vance, to be perfectly honest, Lysandra isn't ugly at all. She has incredibly beautiful features, and I don't want a single penny from you or your family's empire, she pressed, but she has a highly visible mark near her left eye. I smiled warmly and said, It doesn't matter to me. She is a very kind and beautiful person at heart. She was completely silent for a few agonizing seconds, assessing me, then finally said, So that means you two have firmly decided to be together. To be honest with you, Leander, I know perfectly well that Lysandra is fiercely against this arranged marriage. But this engagement is a binding business decision between both our powerful families, and I alone cannot change it. If you really want to be with my daughter, you must find a way to make the Theron family break off the engagement themselves. Consider this a direct test from me to prove your worth. I remained silent and just nodded, because I knew perfectly well we were just pretending. Then she turned and took Lysandra away in her chauffeured car. Later that evening, Lysandra called me excitedly to ask what had happened. I recounted the entire conversation to her. She was overjoyed and said with a giggling smile, You did a fantastic job, Leander! I'll give you a special reward the next time we meet. I asked, exhausted, When's the next time? Your father must have locked you in your room and punished you, right? She scoffed dismissively. He was just throwing an angry tantrum for show. The truth is, my father loves me the most out of anyone in the house. If everything goes well, I'll be out of the house by tomorrow afternoon. After hanging up the phone, I went to Bastian's small apartment to sleep on his couch, and the next afternoon, we went back to our barbecue stall to prep. Bastian nudged me and asked, Leander, where exactly were you all night? You look very tired today. He winked exaggeratedly and asked, Were you with Miss Vance at a hotel last night? Leander, you're my absolute hero. I really respect your game. You have to tell me your secrets on how to please rich girls later. I slapped him with a dish towel and said, Don't talk nonsense. It's fine if you joke with me, but if this crazy rumor gets out to the public, it will seriously destroy Miss Vance's reputation. Bastian leaned on the counter. Leander, you're so incredibly worried about her reputation. Are you really falling in love with Miss Vance? Well, that's completely normal. She's incredibly rich and surprisingly good-looking. When two people spend that much time together, they inevitably fall in love. I thought to myself with a heavy sigh, how could this possibly be love? It's just an elaborate, stressful act. We had brand new tables and chairs delivered and installed that morning after the shop was vandalized by Theron's goons. But today, business was completely dead. By evening, only 2 brave customers had come in to eat. I asked Bastian to call all our regular customers and tell them we were offering free food today just to get a crowd going. I had just sat down and filled a glass of water when suddenly I heard Corwin's furious voice from the street. Leander, what exactly did you say to Seraphine? A jealous scoundrel like you can't tolerate seeing me happy, can you? Before I even knew what was happening, he rushed in and kicked me hard in the stomach, knocking me out of my chair and onto the ground. Corwin lunged forward, kicking me again in the ribs and then picking up a wooden chair to smash over my head. I quickly rolled away, scrambling to my feet. If it was a physical street fight he wanted, I wasn't afraid of him at all. Enraged by his unprovoked attack, I charged at him and started throwing heavy punches. Bastien immediately ran out from the kitchen and forcibly separated us, putting himself in the middle. Bastien yelled, "Corwin! Leander! You two are real brothers!" What's the point of fighting like street dogs instead of sitting together and resolving this? What's the point of going after each other's throats like this? Corwin spat blood onto the floor and yelled, "I can't talk rationally to this lying bastard! Bastien, get out of the way! Today I'm going to teach him a physical lesson he'll remember for the rest of his miserable life." My face was dark with fury, and I wasn't about to back down an inch. Just then, Seraphine's BMW pulled up screeching on the side of the road. Bastien quickly waved his arms and shouted, "Seraphine, you've come at the absolute right time! Stop them quickly! I can't hold them both back!" Seraphine ran up to us and, seeing the fresh, bloody bruises on both our faces, gritted her teeth in disgust and said, "Just kill each other! Why stop now? It would be much better for everyone if you just beat each other to death right here." Corwin pointed a trembling finger at me and yelled, "Seraphine, Leander is a terrible, manipulative liar! Don't fall for any of his toxic words!" Seraphine glanced at me with an unreadable expression and then turned to Corwin. "Corwin, you're constantly blaming Leander for everything. But aren't you at fault too? Leander worked in a deadly coal mine for 4 grueling years just to pay for your college education, and yet you lied to my face, saying he was living comfortably off the free food of a rich house as a kept son-in-law. You are his real blood brother." Should a brother say such disgusting, false things? Corwin was completely speechless, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. I later learned that all of these lies had finally reached Seraphine's wealthy parents. They were initially fully prepared to give Corwin the $100,000 to buy the house outright, but then they suddenly changed their minds and refused. Perhaps they too had begun to investigate and feel that Corwin couldn't be trusted with their daughter's future, and that's exactly why Corwin got so blindly angry and came to fight me. Seraphine crossed her arms. "My parents point-blank refused to buy a house just by making the full payment in your name. They didn't say they were completely against our relationship, so why are you throwing such a violent tantrum? If you honestly think my parents aren't treating you with enough respect, then fine, let's just break up right now." Hearing this devastating ultimatum, all of Corwin's violent anger instantly subsided into panic, and he immediately began to grovel and persuade Seraphine. I could clearly sense that Seraphine was no longer blindly believing every single word he said like she did before. When Seraphine finally calmed down slightly, Corwin took her hand gently and pleaded, "Seraphine, I swear I'll never get angry and lose control like this again. I'll control my temper, I promise. Please, just forgive me this one time. Okay, let's get out of this filthy place. I never want to return to this slum again." Corwin started to pull Seraphine away toward the car, but I stepped forward and said loudly, "Leaving here isn't going to be that easy." Seraphine looked back, shocked. Corwin turned to me, staring at me with bloodshot, hateful eyes, and spat, "Leander, what the hell do you want now? Let me tell you right now, I'm not afraid of you or your rich girlfriend at all." Today, if Bastien and Seraphine hadn't stopped me, I would have broken all your teeth and handed them to you. I laughed coldly, wiping blood from my lip, and said, "Really? Then why don't we both fix a time and place right now and fight to the end?" When Bastien saw the situation escalating towards violence again, he came over to me and pleaded, "Leander, please let it go. Forget what happened today. You two are brothers by blood. Why are you escalating things so much that you become literally thirsty for each other's blood?" I said firmly, "Bastien, you don't know the whole ugly story, so please don't interfere with this." Corwin started audibly grinding his teeth in pure anger. Seraphine stepped forward and said coldly, "Bastien might not know the whole story, but I certainly know enough. I agree that Corwin absolutely shouldn't have come here and physically fought you, but he's admitted his mistake to me. Now what more do you possibly want? You need to learn to forgive others, Leander. Don't forget that you two are still brothers. Learn to forgive." I laughed bitterly. If I forgive him for destroying my life, who is going to forgive me for wasting my youth? I considered him my beloved brother, but what did he secretly think of me? A mindless money-making machine or a disposable ladder to his own success? Seraphine, do you have any idea how disgustingly naive you look right now? You should really keep your mouth shut. Seraphine's face twisted into an expression of horrific anger. "I look disgusting?" she shrieked. "Excellent. Now that you've said that to my face, I'll make you look even more pathetic. If you even try to touch Corwin today, I will use my family's money and power to ensure you don't leave this city alive." Corwin saw Seraphine fiercely defending him against me, so he looked at me with a sickening, teasing smirk. A massive volcano of suppressed anger was about to erupt inside my chest. I jumped up and charged forward to hit his smug face. Bastien wrapped his arms around me and held me back with all his weight. "Leander, calm down, please!" I struggled with all my might to free myself. My eyes were completely red with fury. Instead of walking away to safety, Seraphine said mockingly to Bastien, "Bastien, why don't you just let the animal go? Let me see what actual harm a street rat like him can do to us today with my family watching." Seraphine sneered. Now that he has some rich girl backing him, his entire attitude has completely changed. He starts physical fights over every little perceived slight. Does he even remember who he really is? Corwin eagerly added fuel to the raging fire. "Leander, you've completely changed into a monster since you met Lysandra. You don't care about your family relationships anymore, and now you've gladly become a kept, live-in son-in-law for a rich family. Is money really everything to you now? If our dead parents found out what a parasite you've become, they'd be heartbroken." I yelled at the top of my lungs, "Don't you ever dare mention our parents' names! You don't have the right!" I had lost absolutely all control over myself. I shoved Bastien hard into a table and lunged forward, bypassing Seraphine entirely and landing a devastatingly powerful punch directly on Corwin's face, sending him crashing violently to the hard pavement. "Leander, I swear I won't let you live!" Corwin screamed, spitting out a tooth. He scrambled up from the dirt and charged forward to fight me. I clenched my bruised fists, ready to end him. Seraphine stamped her high heels on the ground in a rage and screamed, "Stop it! Stop it right now! Leander, you only paid for Corwin's education for a measly 4 years, right? If Corwin doesn't pay you back every cent, he won't be able to walk with his head held high for the rest of his life, and you too, you'll never let us live in peace. Fine, then. Tell me exactly how much of your dirty money he's spent over the years. I will personally pay it all back in full on his behalf right now." Hearing her patronizing offer, I couldn't control my boiling anger. I yelled back, "A few $1,000s a year, totaling thousands over 4 years! Give me back my blood money!" Seraphine was also seething with uncontrollable anger. She yanked a premium bank card from her designer bag and threw it forcefully at my feet. She sneered, "You can go to the ATM and check the balance right now. There's a full $50,000 in that account, not a single penny missing. And just remember this, Leander, from today on, you do not owe Corwin anything, and he owes you nothing. And you will never, ever make a public fuss about this debt again. That $50,000 had originally been given to Corwin to buy the house. How could he possibly let it go to me so easily?" He quickly dropped to his knees, reached out, and snatched the card off the ground before I could. He looked up and said nobly, "Seraphine, this is your hard-earned money. I'll pay you back one day for whatever I took from him with this." I pointed a finger at him and yelled, "Corwin! If you hadn't practically begged me to leave high school and work in those mines, I would have graduated with a degree today too! You promised me that if I paid for your elite education, you would never forget the sacrifice. But what have you actually done to me? You've completely ruined my life and stolen my future. How will you ever repay that? Can you repay me for 4 years of hell?" But Corwin immediately went back on his word, yelling back, "Stop talking absolute nonsense!" I said at the time that I would work part-time and pay for my own education. But by the time I found out, you had already stupidly dropped out on your own, and now you're unfairly blaming me for your own failures. Leander, are you really human to lie like this? I never expected him to tell such a blatant, sociopathic lie in front of her. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "I knew you wouldn't admit it. It's been 4 years, so let's leave that debt at that. I'm just going to ask you this one simple question in front of her. How much did you really sell our parents' house for? 100,000 or 250,000? Corwin's eyes were instantly filled with sheer, undeniable panic. He quickly stammered, "Obviously, it's like a house that burned down to ashes. Who would pay 250,000 for that? Will anyone actually believe that insane number?" I burst out laughing angrily. I looked at Seraphine and said loudly, "Corwin sold that plot for $250,000! He gave me $50,000 and he secretly pocketed the remaining $200,000! I glared at Seraphine's shocked face. "Were you planning to pay off his entire debt? Then write me a check for the rest of that stolen money too." Seraphine looked at Corwin with deep, horrified suspicion. Corwin quickly grabbed her arm and pleaded, "Seraphine, please, would you really believe the lies of a jealous thug like him? That burned-down lot really sold for only 100,000. Everything I'm saying to you is the absolute truth." Seraphine stepped back, pulling her arm away. The house was completely burned down to the ground. It's selling for even 100,000 is a very big deal for that area. Corwin nodded vigorously, sweating profusely. Absolutely! So, saying that the land sold for 250,000 is a complete, fabricated lie. Is it really true? Just then, a familiar, commanding voice called out from the street. It was none other than Lysandra. She spoke very softly, but her words carried. She walked over, looked at Seraphine mockingly, and said, "What a shamelessly gullible person you are. Do you want me to pull up the digital contract for the sale of that house right now and show everyone? Only then will you believe that the property was sold to my company for $250,000? Then fine. As you wish." Lysandra elegantly took out her phone. She opened the digital legal contract, held it up to Seraphine's face, and said, "Open those dirty, blind eyes of yours and look closely at the numbers. Does that say 250,000 or 100,000? Corwin was completely terrified, his face turning the color of chalk. Seraphine aggressively snatched the phone from Lysandra's hand and began to read the legal document carefully. Her expression slowly morphed into one of utter devastation. She couldn't believe her own eyes that the contract was real and legally binding. "Seraphine, please, I just wanted to secretly save some more money for our new house," Corwin begged. Seraphine looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "Corwin, how could you possibly do this to your own brother? I never pressured you into buying an expensive house. If we don't have the money right now, we can always earn more together later. But why did you do this terrible thing? You've disappointed me so much. Seraphine, I know I made a huge mistake. Please, just forgive me. I'll pay him the remaining money right now." Corwin was incredibly cunning and adaptive. When he realized he was cornered with absolutely no way to escape the evidence, he immediately switched tactics. He pretended to apologize profusely to Seraphine, pulling out his phone to transfer the missing money to my account. Even though Seraphine no longer trusted him anywhere near as much as before, she unfortunately fell for his manipulative trick once again, wanting to believe the best in him. Corwin transferred the money to my account and quickly took the weeping Seraphine away from the scene. Seraphine slammed the original bank card onto my prep table as she left and yelled over her shoulder, "From today on, all financial accounts between you and Corwin are completely settled. You no longer owe him anything, and he owes you nothing." Lysandra crossed her arms and said loudly, "Seraphine, I didn't believe the beautiful but stupid stereotype before, but after meeting you, I'm completely convinced. After seeing all the hard evidence, you're still blindly supporting that thieving scoundrel. I feel genuinely sorry for your pathetic future." Seraphine stopped walking and turned around, her eyes flashing. "What exactly do you want to say to me?" Corwin didn't dare let Lysandra continue speaking and expose any more lies. He immediately grabbed Seraphine's hand tightly and practically dragged her to the car, speeding away. Lysandra shook her head in sheer disappointment as she watched the BMW disappear. I've seen a lot of hopelessly stupid girls in my social circles, but I have never, ever seen one as stubbornly stupid as this one. Bastian was standing there, completely at a loss for words. He finally turned to Lysandra and asked, "Miss Vance, did Corwin do anything else horribly wrong to Leander?" To be completely honest, I never in a million years thought Corwin would be such a terrible person who would even steal the sale money from his own ancestral home. Before today, I thought Leander was the one in the wrong for fighting him. But today I've finally seen Corwin's true, ugly nature. Lysandra put a comforting hand on Bastian's bulky shoulder and said, "The word truth is a grave insult when applied to someone like that. To be perfectly honest, that scoundrel is worse than a rabid animal." Bastian looked at her, his boyish eyes filled with immense surprise. Lysandra smiled and added, "Yes, and from now on, please don't call me Miss Vance. We're friends now. From now on, you can call me Sister Lysa. After all, last night, your friend Leander and I shared a very intimate hotel room." Lysandra deliberately gave me a very mischievous, suggestive look and feigned a demure shyness. Bastian's jaw dropped. "Did Leander really seem strange this morning? I specifically asked him if he was with you at the hotel last night, but he completely denied it." He turned to me. "Sister Lysa, my friend Leander is a very, very nice person. He's absolutely nothing like Corwin. You'll be very happy living a life with him. I wholeheartedly congratulate you both. How was he in bed?" Lysandra joked smoothly. "I don't need to ask you. I know everything I need to know firsthand." She clapped her hands. "All right, new customers are finally coming. Bastian, you go out and attend to them. I need to talk to Leander in private." Lysandra grabbed my arm and led me to the empty back storage room, firmly closing the door behind us. She stepped incredibly close to me and asked softly, You must be very emotionally hurt seeing your beloved Seraphine drive off with Corwin again. But I hid everything behind a blank mask, saying coldly, now he goes his way, and I go my way. We're completely strangers forever. Lysandra kept moving closer to me. She was about to bump chests with me, but I automatically backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. She sighed and said, do you know what your absolute biggest weakness is? You cannot control your facial expressions. Your happiness, your deep anger, your intense sadness. Everything is clearly visible written on your face. I had no words to say to defend myself. She reached out and touched my cheek. I know it's virtually impossible for you to just forget her so quickly after all these years, so I'm not putting any romantic pressure on you right now, but you must always remember that publicly, you're Lysandra Vance's boyfriend now. If you do anything stupid or wrong behind my back, I will teach you a lesson far worse than Corwin ever could. I frowned, pushing her hand away, and said, Madam, there's absolutely no one else here, so we don't need to pretend anymore. I'm telling the truth. We were in that hotel room last night. Do you want to deny it? Lysandra took a big, deliberate step forward, pressing me against the wall. I had absolutely no way to escape. I quickly stammered, But nothing physical actually happened between us last night. Pointing an accusatory finger at my chest, she said angrily, Who exactly told you that? You drank way too much last night and you completely lost control of yourself. If I hadn't fought to save myself, you would have definitely done that to me. Even if you couldn't finish the job, you saw me undressed. You touched me intimately, didn't you? So what's the difference between doing everything together and almost doing everything together? My face flushed scarlet with intense embarrassment, and I didn't know where to hide my face. I was completely confused and terrified. Drunk out of my mind, I'd looked at her? Touched her? I couldn't remember a single thing. Seeing me stunned and silent, Lysandra said coquettishly, tracing my jawline, Nothing good ever happens in a rushed haste. As long as you're nice and loyal to me, I'll be truly yours one day. Her gaze was utterly insidious, and her lips were so beautiful and close, they made me want to lean in and be aroused. But I knew perfectly well Lysandra wasn't the kind of girl I could just casually hug or discard. I was about to say something to break the tension when Lysandra suddenly leaned up and kissed me on the lips. Though it was just a light, brief touch, it sent a massive jolt of raw electricity through my entire body. Lysandra's cheeks flushed a delicate pink. Her eyes were suddenly moist, and she softly whispered, You behaved so incredibly well in front of my strict mom today, so this kiss was your special reward for that. My mind went completely, utterly blank. Lysandra stepped back and then said in a normal tone, Today, when I showed everyone that digital contract, Corwin must have realized that I was the one who bought the property. So, there's no point in hiding it from him anymore. I'm officially giving the deed to you. Call a contractor tomorrow and get it renovated, and then you can move in permanently. But remember, you absolutely cannot go back on your firm promise to be my fake boyfriend for the full 3 months, or I'll legally take it right back. The very next morning, Lysandra came to me with a team of professional renovators. After inspecting the charred ruins of the house, the lead contractor said, Miss Vance, the structural integrity is badly burned. If we have to completely gut and renovate it to livable standards, it will cost at least over $100,000. Lysandra waved her hand dismissively. Do the work well. Don't worry about the final cost. The contractor bowed his head respectfully and said, How could I ever refuse a lucrative job Miss Vance has given me? I'll go get my crew and everything ready. We'll start demolition and framing tomorrow morning. After he left the site, Lysandra took a deep breath of the morning air and said, Well, that's finally settled for good. Now that you've got your precious house back, I can breathe a sigh of relief. Perhaps in the eyes of society and others, Lysandra was a spoiled, stubborn, manipulative rich girl. But deep down, I thought she was very kind at heart. At least, she was very kind and generous to me. I had a strong moral compass, and I was very grateful for what she had done. I took out my wallet and said, Miss Vance, I only have $250,000 right now. I'll give you half of it now to cover the renovation. I'll return the rest of what you paid to Corwin when I earn it at the shop. At that time, I technically had $300,000. A portion was from Seraphine's forced repayment, and I got $200,000 from the house sale. I handed the bank card to Lysandra. She looked at me like I was crazy and asked, What exactly are you doing? I spent $250,000 of my own money to buy the house outright. Now that I've given you your house back, why are you returning money to me? I insisted. I need the money badly, and I love having it. But I absolutely do not want dishonest, unearned money. She scoffed. You won't even make $50,000 a year running this greasy BBQ stall. Are you really giving me back this massive amount of money so easily? You won't have any regrets doing this? Lysandra asked, staring deeply into my eyes. I smiled genuinely and shook my head. Even a good, honest person wants to earn wealth, but they do it the right, ethical way. I'm not a great saint of a person, but I'm not a bad person either. If Corwin were in my exact place, he wouldn't give you this money back even if it meant his life. This just shows I didn't make a mistake in judging what kind of person I want to be. Lysandra smiled warmly and asked me to put the card back in my wallet. She said she absolutely didn't need the money. It was all part of our mutually beneficial deal. I didn't have to pay her a single penny back. But that simply didn't seem right to my conscience. $250,000 just for being a fake boyfriend for 3 months wasn't worth that much labor. Coincidentally, just at that moment, Bastien and Seraphine's voices echoed loudly from outside the front door of the shop. Seraphine. To be perfectly honest, I don't even know what really happened between Leander and Corwin in the past. I asked Leander, but he never tells me anything about his pain. But last night, Sister Lysa said something that I remember very clearly. She said that Corwin is worse than a rabid animal. Seraphine's voice trembled slightly. Sister Lysa? You mean Lysandra Vance? Bastien continued obliviously. Yes, Sister Lysa also told me directly that she and Leander were together intimately in a hotel room last night, so I can't call her Miss Vance anymore. Seraphine, what's wrong with you? Why is your face suddenly so pale? Are you not feeling well? I'm fine, Seraphine stammered. After a moment of silence, Seraphine asked Bastien, Are they really in a serious relationship? There's no lie in this? Bastien replied cheerfully. Sister Lysa herself told me to my face that they went to a hotel together. Why on earth would a high-class girl lie about such scandalous things? Seraphine muttered. Bastien, I also thought Leander was in the wrong before, but now I understand that Corwin must have done something truly terrible to her. You must have misunderstood Leander, Bastien sighed. Maybe I misunderstood him too. But now none of these things matter. The past is the past. Pull your car over. I have some prep work to do, so I'm heading inside. Please don't tell Leander I came out to talk to you, Seraphine replied softly. Okay, I'll remember. Seraphine, I'll drop you off at the door. There's no need for that. Seraphine walked past the front door of the shop. As she passed, she glanced unconsciously toward the side courtyard. Lysandra and I were standing there, talking. Her footsteps paused for a fraction of a second. She gave me a cold, heartbroken look, and then quickly turned and practically ran away to her car. After that incident, I didn't see Seraphine for several long days. I desperately wanted to run after her and explain everything. But then I logically thought, let it be. It would be much better for my mental health if she didn't come to bother me anymore. On the other hand, Lysandra started coming to the shop to look for me every single day. At first, I felt a little strange and pressured by her constant presence, but over time, I realized she was really good at heart. She just had a remarkably short temper. Once you took the time to understand her walls, it was very easy and pleasant to be around her. But I constantly reminded myself to keep my emotional distance. Meanwhile, my old ancestral house had been completely renovated from the ashes. I bought some new, modest furniture and finally moved back out of Mrs. Gable's spare room and into my own home. It felt infinitely better to have your own little sanctuary than to live under someone else's roof. I wanted to give Mrs. Gable some cash to thank her for her immense help, but she flatly and aggressively refused. Later that week, I bought some nice gifts and invited her and her daughter to my shop for a massive BBQ feast. By the time we finished eating and chatting, it was already pitch dark outside. I said, Mrs. Gable, I'll drop you and your daughter home on my bike. Mrs. Gable looked at my electric bike, smiled knowingly, nodded, and said, Our house is very nearby. We'll just walk. Leander, thank you so much for this wonderful, delicious meal. It took a long time for me to finally understand why she was refusing a ride. She was an older, widowed woman, and I was a young, single man. She didn't want anyone in the gossip-heavy neighborhood to think anything inappropriate about us being seen together at night. I watched them walk away safely and then started clearing the dirty tables. Suddenly, 2 large, unmarked vans stopped aggressively on the side of the road, and 10 to 15 heavily armed thugs poured out of them. Without a single word of warning, they started smashing windows and vandalizing my shop with baseball bats. Bastien and I were absolutely furious. We lost our temper entirely, grabbed kitchen knives and metal pipes, and confronted them head-on. While the chaotic, bloody fight was raging in the street. A booming man's voice rang out nearby. "How dare you create a violent ruckus in my younger brother's shop? Vaughn, go quickly and help them out." I turned around in the chaos and saw it was Draven, accompanied by Vaughn and a few other massive, imposing men. They were incredibly skilled, brutal street fighters. Vaughn in particular was a monster. He had knocked out 3 or 4 of the attacking thugs in the blink of an eye with his bare fists. Draven casually walked over to me, ignoring the brawl, and said, "Don't be afraid, little brother. This elder brother of yours has come to help you clean house." Although he said this bravely, he didn't physically attack anyone himself. After all, he was the mob boss, so he had to stand back and show his untouchable authority. After a few brutal minutes of fighting, Bastian and I had several bloody injuries on our faces and arms. Vaughn and his men had also taken a few heavy punches. But those attacking thugs were in much, much worse shape than us, groaning on the ground. When they finally realized they were losing badly, they tried to scramble to their vans and run away. But Vaughn stepped forward and blocked their path. "Don't let them escape alive," Draven commanded in a heavy, lethal voice. "Draven?" A short-haired thug recognized him and spat blood. "Do you even know who we're working for?" Draven waved his hand with arrogant pride and said, "I don't give a damn who you're working for. This man is my younger brother and my close friend. If you create a ruckus and smash up his shop, it means you're playing with my personal honor. Do you really want to start a street war with me?" The short-haired man narrowed his bruised eyes. "Draven, we've heard a lot of scary stories about you, and we know that you were once a massive don in this city. But you've clearly forgotten that times have changed rapidly. Your old-school ways don't work on the streets anymore. Let me tell you clearly so you understand. We've been sent here directly by Theron of the Theron family." Draven's confident face instantly turned pale with fear at the mere mention of Theron's name. Who else could have such power? The short-haired man said with a very arrogant, bloody smile, "Draven, do you really, truly want to mess with the sole heir of the Theron corporate empire? Don't think I'm going to take your threats seriously anymore?" I already suspected this was Theron's doing from his previous visit. Fear was highly evident on Draven's face. He looked at me, then at the thugs, and finally gritted his teeth, choosing loyalty. "I'll say the exact same thing again. This man is my younger brother and my friend. When I see him in trouble, I can't just walk away and leave him to die. Okay, Draven, remember what you just said today. We will settle this massive debt another day. Let's get out of here, boys." The short-haired thug gestured, took his beaten men, and piled into the vans, peeling away. Draven sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping, and led me into a private back room of the shop. After locking the door securely, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. "Little brother, were those dangerous men really Theron's men? Do you and Theron have some deep, old grudge?" I sighed and said, "It was just a small, stupid argument over a girl." Draven took a deep breath and said with a very sad, terrified face, "Little brother, I am in incredibly deep trouble this time. That Theron isn't someone I can ever mess with. The Theron family's financial and political power is absolute. If Theron decides to take revenge on me for interfering today, my entire used car business will be completely ruined overnight." "Oh my God! What on earth should I do now?" I thought to myself. "Why are you crying and complaining in front of me? My own life is literally in danger from these assassins." Draven looked at me desperately and said, "Little brother, there's only one possible way left out of this mess. You have to call that girl from the Vance family. Only she has the family power to solve this matter and protect us. My brother, I beg you with folded hands, you can't just leave me to die in this terrible mess." I was a little surprised by his begging. "Little brother, this brother of yours is really a very good, loyal person. When you get to know me better, you'll know that for yourself. For those of us who work in this dark underworld, friendship and loyalty are paramount." After much stressful thought, I realized I had no other choice but to call Lysandra. The first reason was that Draven had willingly put his own life and business in severe jeopardy just to help save me. And the second reason was that if I didn't finally resolve this matter at the source, Theron would absolutely never let me go either. I called Lysandra and explained everything that had just happened. A short while later, Lysandra arrived in a convoy with several of her own heavily armed, black-clad bodyguards. As soon as she rushed into the shop and saw my bloody face, she asked frantically, "Leander, are you okay? Are you seriously hurt? Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" I waved my hand dismissively and said, "It's just a few scratches and bruises. It's nothing serious." She fumed, That scoundrel Theron! I should have anticipated he would come back to violently trouble you. It's all my fault. I should have sent some of my own men to protect your shop 24/7. Lysandra's face was filled with deep embarrassment, and she looked at me with great, undeniable love and concern. Draven gave her a very flattering, nervous smile. Junior brother, is this the famous daughter of the Vance family? Lysandra gave him a cold look and asked me, Leander, who is this old man? I quickly replied, this is Draven. If he hadn't bravely come with his team and physically stopped those assassins, my shop would have been completely destroyed, and I might be dead. She raised an eyebrow. How long have you known them? Why didn't you ever tell me about them? Lysandra looked at me suspiciously. I quickly twisted the topic a bit to avoid explaining the previous mob encounter. Draven immediately said, bowing his head, Miss Vance, just now, in helping my younger brother survive, I've unfortunately earned the deadly enmity of Theron. He will definitely try to destroy me and my business. Please, I beg you, use your family's strength to protect me. Lysandra glared at him, crossing her arms. You only remember that you helped Leander today, but you conveniently forget that just a few days ago, your own violent men came here and vandalized my boyfriend's shop. Draven's face turned beet red with shame. Vaughn was stupid and reckless. He didn't know this was my younger brother's shop. I'll bring him back someday soon, and he'll publicly apologize to my younger brother in front of everyone. I intervened. People say there's no true friendship without a fight first. Let the past go. Draven immediately looked at me with immense gratitude. Lysandra sat down on a surviving sofa, thinking in silence for a long time. Then she suddenly looked up, locked eyes with me, and asked, Leander, do you have the courage to go with me right now to confront Theron directly? I wiped the blood from my lip and said, a person with nothing left to lose fears no one in this world. Why would I be afraid? She smiled proudly. Who said you have nothing? You have me, right? If you're not afraid, let's go end this. Lysandra gave me a loving look and stood up. Draven stopped me and warned, little brother, that Theron is absolutely not a gentleman. If something goes wrong there in his territory, it won't be good for you. I'll send Vaughn and some of my best men after you to protect you. I thought for a while, realizing we needed backup, then nodded and said, okay, thank you very much, Draven. Around 9 p.m., Lysandra's convoy stopped outside a massive, exclusive private club downtown. She told me it was owned entirely by Theron. Lysandra took me and 4 of her biggest bodyguards straight inside the opulent lobby. She sent one of her bodyguards to the front reception desk to demand where Theron was. The bodyguard came back and said, Ma'am, the receptionist says Theron is in his private VIP office on the 4th floor. We took the private elevator straight to the 4th floor. There were several massive men in blazer suits standing guard outside the office doors. Lysandra headed straight for the double doors, but the men immediately stepped forward and stopped her. Who are you people? One demanded. Lysandra didn't even blink. She raised her hand and slapped the massive guard hard across the face. Open your dirty eyes and see exactly who I am, she yelled with absolute authority. The guard blinked, stunned, then frowned. Miss Vance. I'm incredibly sorry, Miss Vance. I didn't recognize you in the dim light. Miss Vance, please wait here for a moment. I'll go inside and tell the boss you've arrived. Lysandra shoved him aside. I don't need you to announce me. Get out of my way. The guard pleaded. Miss Vance, Mr. Theron has strictly ordered that anyone must ask his permission before entering. Miss Vance, that's Mr. Theron's unbreakable rule. Please don't cause us any trouble, or he'll kill us. Lysandra simply gestured to her bodyguards without a word. Her bodyguards surged forward, physically pinning the guards against the walls, and Lysandra violently kicked the double doors open. Inside the massive office was a luxurious rest area separated by frosted glass walls. Through the glass, it was clearly visible that Theron was lounging on a sofa with 3 scantily clad women, playing cards and drinking. When I first saw Theron days ago, I thought he was a very decent, educated, and put-together person. But seeing him now, I understood exactly why Lysandra was so desperate to break off this arranged engagement. Really, I thought, you shouldn't judge a person by their tailored suits alone. Miss Vance, you can't go in there! A guard pinned outside yelled loudly, Mr. Theron! The 3 women were startled and screamed. Theron panicked, dropping his cards. Lysandra calmly walked in and sat down on a leather sofa with her back to the glass rest area. Her face was eerily, terrifyingly calm. Theron scrambled out of the glass room, hurriedly fixing his shirt. His cold gaze fell on his bruised men standing outside the door, trembling with fear. Don't disturb them. I forced my way in. I also wanted to see exactly what important corporate work Mr. Theron was doing so late at night. Lysandra said in a very icy, mocking tone, "Lysa, please, listen to me. I'm really not that kind of person. These women deliberately framed me and threw themselves at me. I couldn't help myself. But I really, truly only love you. I've already talked to my family. We're going to start the wedding preparations soon." Theron lied smoothly. Lysandra ignored him, got up from her seat, and sat on the sofa directly across from him. Looking at me standing by the door, she commanded, "Leander, come over here and sit next to me on this sofa." She turned back to Theron. "After doing such a disgusting thing right in front of my eyes, this man still claims to love me. He's shamelessly even worse than Corwin's father." Theron was giving me a menacing, murderous look, but I completely ignored him and walked straight over to sit next to Lysandra. Theron's face turned fierce with sheer, unadulterated anger. "Leander, do you have any idea what you're doing right now? This woman is my future wife. Get out of here right now, otherwise you won't walk out of this building alive today." Lysandra grabbed my hand. "Don't be afraid. As long as I'm sitting here, absolutely no one can harm you." She looked at Theron. "I brought Leander here personally to tell you to your face that I belong entirely to him now, and I will only ever marry him," Lysandra declared. "As for our pathetic arranged engagement, it's completely irrelevant now. Whether your family formally breaks it off or not, I will just continue to sleep with Leander." Theron gave me a disgusted, hateful look and said with a mocking smile, "You're going to throw away a billionaire for this poor, dirty beggar?" "Lysa, I know you're just angry with me right now, but you don't need to use this filthy beggar just to tease me and make me jealous. You're saying you belong to him? Do you honestly think I'll believe that for a second?" Lysandra smirked. "Whether you believe it or not is your own choice. But we really played that intimate game together last night. If you don't believe it, go ahead and ask the staff at the Grand Hotel where we went to play. Such things are absolutely not jokes," Theron scoffed. "Who said I was joking?" Lysandra challenged. "Leander, you tell him right now if we haven't played that intimate game together in bed." I swallowed hard and nodded affirmatively. Seeing this, Lysandra immediately leaned over, kissed me deeply on the cheek, and said in a very flirtatious, loud tone, "I felt so incredibly satisfied playing with your stamina last night." Hearing these explicit words, my throat went completely dry, and a strange, undeniable heat ran through my entire body. Theron slammed his fist on the glass table in a blind rage, shattering it. His eyes were bloodshot with jealousy and fury. "Leander, I won't let you live! Guards, come in here and kill this bastard!" Some of his armed men immediately ran in from the hallway, and Lysandra's bodyguards also rushed in to intercept them, drawing weapons. The whole world may be afraid of your family, but I, Lysandra Vance, am not afraid of you at all. If you or your men even touch a hair on his head, you'll have to go through my dead body first," Lysandra shouted fiercely. Her words were so incredibly powerful and loyal that, for a fleeting moment, I think I genuinely fell in love with her courage. Theron was seething with uncontrollable rage. "I want his life! No one can save him today! Kill him!" A fierce, bloody brawl broke out between the two sides in the massive office. Theron yelled in a hoarse, psychopathic voice, "Lysandra, have you forgotten whose territory this is? Coming here into my club and challenging me to my face is the biggest, most fatal mistake of your life. You've ruined my game, so now you belong to me." Soon, dozens more of Theron's armed men poured in from the stairwells outside, and Lysandra's elite bodyguards began to be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. With a nasty, predatory smile, Theron lunged forward, grabbed Lysandra's wrist, and began violently pulling her towards the large, round VIP bed in the glass room. He pushed her hard, causing Lysandra to fall backward onto the mattress. "Let go of me, you disgusting bastard!" Lysandra yelled, but she couldn't break free from Theron's iron grip. She was panicking, tears forming in her eyes. All the suppressed anger inside me exploded like a bomb. I rushed inside the glass room. I grabbed a heavy crystal ashtray that was sitting beside the bed and smashed it directly onto Theron's head with all my might. The crystal shattered, and I kicked him violently away. Grabbing Lysandra's hand, I started running toward the office doors. "You street rat bastard! You dare hit me! I'll cut you into tiny, bloody pieces! Guards, stop them! Don't let them leave this floor!" Theron screamed, clutching his bleeding head. I dragged Lysandra and ran toward the emergency stairwell. "Hey, wait! Slow down! I'm out of breath in these heels." Lysandra couldn't run fast enough to keep up with me. When we finally burst into the ground floor lobby, 15 of Theron's heavily armed men were already waiting for us, blocking the exits. They all drew weapons and pounced on us. "Lysandra, get out of here!" I pushed her forcefully toward a side exit. The situation was incredibly dire. I had no other choice but to stay behind, block the choke point, and let her escape. "No one is getting out of here alive today! Brothers, beat him to death!" Those 15 men surrounded me and began beating me mercilessly with clubs and fists. I was absolutely nothing against their numbers. I just curled up on the marble floor, trying to protect my vital organs and save myself from being beaten to a pulp. Lysandra was screaming and stamping her feet in fear near the side exit, refusing to leave me. Just then, the front glass doors shattered, and Vaughn arrived with 7 or 8 of Draven's most brutal enforcers. Without a single second of hesitation, they charged into the fray with metal pipes and began to rescue me, smashing through Theron's guards. Lysandra ran back into the chaos, grabbed my arm, pulled me up, and we took advantage of the massive brawl to escape through the shattered front doors. After scrambling into her car and locking the doors, Lysandra angrily punched the steering wheel, screaming, "Theron, you've made a massive, unforgivable mistake! You think my family doesn't exist? Today I will completely destroy this club of yours!" I coughed up blood and said, "Lysandra, please, calm down a bit. If you order an attack on a billionaire's club, a full-scale corporate war will start. Things will get really, really bad. I can't let you do that." Lysandra ignored me and dialed a number on her dashboard screen. "Gale, listen to me. Take all your armed men and attack Theron's club on Chang'an Road right now. I need more men, and the destruction needs to be absolute and quick." "That's a direct order." She hung up the call. I didn't dare ask her anything else. Ordering an armed attack on a prominent club was a terrifyingly big deal for a normal person like me. But clearly, it wasn't a big deal for Vance. "Yes, I remember. Are you okay?" She looked at my bleeding face. "I told you you were stupid. When so many armed people were beating you, why didn't you just run with me? Do you think you're made of iron, fighting them all off barehanded?" Lysandra glared at me, but her eyes were filled with fierce, protective love. I gasped. "If I could have run away with you, do you think I would have stayed and gotten beaten? I just wanted to block the door so you could escape to safety. I just didn't know I was so incredibly weak. So you willingly stayed behind just to save me." Lysandra smiled, her anger melting away. She reached over, patted my bruised shoulder gently, and said, "That's great. You're really brave and incredibly loyal. This girlfriend of yours is so incredibly proud of you. Don't worry, Leander. This girlfriend of yours won't let this brutal beating of yours go to waste." We were talking when Lysandra's phone suddenly rang loudly on the dash. Her face changed instantly to pure dread. "Oh no, it's my dad calling. It seems someone has already told him everything about what I just did. Now I'm in serious trouble. Leander, don't say a single word. Let me answer the phone first." "Hello, Dad. What's the matter?" Lysandra asked, trying to keep her voice light. Alaric Vance's heavy, furious voice boomed through the speakers. "Lysandra, I'm out of the office. I have something critically important to do. Are you still lying to my face? Didn't you just call Gale and order his private security men to illegally attack Theron's club? You're really overstepping your bounds these days. I'm only giving you exactly half an hour. Come home right now and tell me the absolute truth to my face." Her father slammed the phone down, disconnecting the call. Lysandra put her phone back, looking pale. "My men won't be able to come there and destroy the club now. My dad called them off. What will we do now?" "Those loyal bodyguards of yours and Vaughn are still trapped inside that club fighting," Lysandra said worriedly. I coughed and said, "Don't worry about them. Theron doesn't have the guts to murder them and start a war with Draven. At the most, he'll beat them up a little and throw them out. Lysandra, you have to come with me back to my house." "I'm afraid my father won't believe my side of the story," Lysandra pleaded. I was a little surprised she wanted to go to my place. "Okay, now sit quietly and hold on." Lysandra pressed the accelerator hard, and the sports car started racing through the wind. About 20 minutes later, the car pulled up to a very luxurious, sprawling mansion. I was completely stunned by the glittering, palatial estate. Now I truly understood why Theron had said that the amount I earn in a lifetime wouldn't even be enough to cover Lysandra's monthly pocket money. "What happened?" Lysandra asked me, noticing my awestruck face. I said with a faint, intimidated smile, "Your family is incredibly wealthy. My house is nothing compared to this." "There are many rich people in the city, but none who are richer than the Vance family." She rolled her eyes. "Let's go inside and meet my father first." The living room was literally built like a royal palace. Her father was sitting on a massive leather sofa with a very terrifying, serious face. Her mother was also present, signaling Lysandra frantically with her eyes. Lysandra, your father is very, very angry. You must quickly admit your mistake and apologize. Lysandra crossed her arms. Mom, I haven't done anything wrong to apologize for. Her father slammed his hand on the mahogany coffee table in a booming rage. You didn't do anything wrong? Theron himself just called me to tell me you and your thugs attacked his private business, and you're still standing there saying it's not your fault? Lysandra, when you have petty, childish issues, I ignore them. But this time, you've really crossed a legal line. Forget about the massive PR fuss the Theron family will make about this. You shouldn't forget that you and Theron are legally engaged to be married. You're going to be the Theron family's daughter-in-law in the future. If they're graciously condoning your wild actions now, it's only because you're not officially married yet. Just think about how terribly they'll treat you when you finally move into their house. We should think about your future before doing anything reckless. Lysandra rolled her eyes dramatically and stated firmly, I will never, ever marry a worthless, cheating person like that. What did you just say? Her father's anger reached its absolute peak. I can tolerate almost anything you say in private, but the final decision about your marriage is mine and mine alone to make for this family's future. He pointed a finger at me. And why the hell did you bring this street boy here again? I don't want to see his battered face in my home. Get him out of here before I call security. I don't know what to do with you anymore. Lysandra stepped in front of me protectively. Papa, Lysandra said, his name is Leander, and I chose him myself as my partner. If I ever marry anyone in this world, it will only be Leander. I won't marry a monster like Theron, even if I die. Her father stood up angrily. There was a fierce, murderous anger in his eyes. He looked very, very dangerous. Her mother quickly stood in front of Lysandra, terrified her father might actually strike her. Lysandra, what is your problem with Theron? Why are you talking about him like that? It sounds like he's a hardened criminal. Her father gritted his teeth and sat heavily back down on the sofa. I think Theron is a very good, respectable person, Lysandra scoffed. Dad, do you really know Theron? Do you have any idea how degraded and sick he really is behind closed doors? You have no idea. When he's in front of you at galas, he pretends to be such a decent, polite person. But when you're not around, his true, vile colors come out. Do you guys want to know exactly what happened today at his club? Listen, I went to visit him to smooth things over. But when I got there, do you know what I saw? I saw him in a dirty, intimate situation with several escorts in his glass office. You people always misunderstand my anger. But what would you have done if you were in my shoes and saw your fiancé doing that? Her mother's face turned slightly red with embarrassment, and she said angrily, How could Theron possibly be such a terrible person? I can't believe it. Her father waved his hand dismissively and said, She's making it up. Mom, Dad, would I really joke about such serious, scandalous things? If you ask anyone who knows Theron well in the underworld, you'll know for yourself what kind of violent person he truly is, Lysandra insisted. Her face was filled with righteous anger. Her mother said, with a little seriousness creeping into her voice, Alaric, to be completely honest, I've heard some disturbing rumors from the other wives about Theron's behavior too. Her father huffed, No one in this corporate world is completely good, and even if they were, they wouldn't like a rebellious girl like you. Lysandra shouted, Dad, you always take his side over your own daughter. She angrily stomped her foot in frustration. Her father took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Whatever it was he was doing, you shouldn't have laid a hand on him or ordered an attack. I heard from his security that you hit him pretty badly. His head was actively bleeding. You could go to jail for assault. So what? That's exactly what he deserved, Lysandra yelled. Do you know what happened then? When I saw him with those women, I was obviously furious. I went inside and started yelling at him. But do you know what he did? Instead of admitting his mistake and apologizing, he laughed and said that our Vance family was absolutely nothing compared to their Theron empire. He said that no matter what humiliating things he did to me, our family would just have to suffer silently because we need their money. Mom, Dad, I don't understand why we have to act so weak in front of them. Why do we need to beg for their approval? I looked at Lysandra in awe. Theron hadn't said anything remotely like that during the confrontation, but the way she spun the lie to hit her father's pride was absolutely amazing. His father's face instantly turned pale with furious, corporate anger. I agree that the Theron family is very powerful, but our Vance family isn't weak either. Did Theron really say that to you? Of course he did! Lysandra rolled her eyes and effortlessly made up another devastating story. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that when I was arguing with him and he couldn't answer my questions, he ordered his men to hold me down and he tried to force himself on me right there in the office. If Leander hadn't arrived in time and risked his own life to fight off 15 armed men to save me, Mom, I would have been assaulted, with so many of his guards watching. I wouldn't have been able to face anyone ever again. Lysandra ran and hugged her mother, burying her face in her shoulder, and started crying loudly and convincingly. I was completely stunned. What absolute, Oscar-worthy acting. If I hadn't been standing right there myself during the actual event, I would have fully believed her horrific story. This was almost too much. Her father flew into an absolute, protective rage. He got up from his seat and started marching toward the front doors. Her mother quickly grabbed his arm and stopped him. Alaric, where are you going so late at night? To the Theron family's estate? Her mother shook her head frantically and pleaded, This isn't right. We don't have any video proof. What will we do if Theron just denies it? It will only cause a massive legal scandal for us. So, will I just let this happen to my daughter without a fight? Her father roared, I thought Theron was a very decent and good person. I had no idea he would turn out to be such a vile, despicable monster. I won't let my daughter's life be ruined by an animal. Such a man is absolutely not worthy of marriage. We have to break off this engagement immediately. Lysandra wept even louder into her mother's shoulder. Forgive me, Lysandra. We always misunderstood your rebelliousness. We had no idea you had to endure so much hidden pain. Don't worry, darling. If Theron is really such a terrible person, I will personally break off this engagement myself. Her mother embraced her lovingly. You are my own flesh and blood. Would I ever wish ill upon you? Her father said, his voice softening. I was forcing you to marry him before because I didn't know his true, ugly nature. But now that I know everything he did today, I will never force you. Her mother looked a little worried again. But if we unilaterally break off this engagement ourselves, I'm afraid the Theron family will take it as an insult and won't agree easily. They might retaliate financially. Her father paced around the grand room for a while, deep in thought. Then he said, We'll just keep putting the wedding dates off. When the Theron family eventually gets tired of waiting, they'll break it off themselves to save face. But how long can we keep putting it off? Her mother asked. If the Theron family refuses to break off the engagement, will our daughter just never be allowed to get married? Finally, her father decided to postpone the matter officially for now and talk to the Theron family patriarch when the time was perfectly right to avoid a stock crash. Her mother nodded in agreement. Your name is Leander, right? Her father asked, turning and looking at me with newfound respect. I quickly nodded. Is what Lysandra said true? Did he try to assault her? Lysandra looked at me over her mother's shoulder with a sad, pleading look. Dad, you still don't believe me! I'm not asking you! You tell me, Leander, he demanded. I was terrified I'd be caught lying to a billionaire, but I replied very seriously, looking him in the eye. Whatever Lysandra is saying is absolutely true, sir. I fought them off. Today, because of your bravery, my daughter's life and honor have been saved. I am deeply grateful for that. You can ask for absolutely whatever you want. Money, cars, a job. I will fulfill your every demand. But I have only one strict condition. You must be completely gone from my daughter's life, right now, forever. You two are from different worlds. You are not made for this life, her father said in a very stern, cold, businesslike voice. Lysandra wiped her fake tears and said, Dad, I will stay with Leander! No one can separate us! She walked over and held my hand tightly, as if she was openly challenging his authority. What is this stupidity? Let go of his hand! Her father shouted angrily. No, I love Leander, Lysandra said with full, unwavering determination. Her father gritted his teeth in anger, waved his hand dismissively in the air, and growled, Will you agree only after taking my life with the stress? Saying this, he stormed up the grand staircase. Her mother gave me a very strange, assessing look. After a while, she sighed and said, Leander, her father has a very short temper when it comes to business and family. Please don't take his harsh words to heart. We only have one daughter, Lysandra. We raised her with great care and immense wealth. We're always terrified someone might just be using her or might hurt her. No one knows what's truly in people's hearts. Take Theron, for example. We thought he was a really nice, upstanding person. But what was his true nature? We only found out today from you two. I think you're not like Theron. You seem honest. Lysandra smiled and said, Mom, Leander is very good to me. He's always saved my life whenever I'm in trouble. Oh yes, Mom, those bodyguards of mine are still trapped in Theron's club. You better find a diplomatic way to call and rescue them quickly. Later that night, her mother called Theron herself and demanded he release her family's men, implying she knew about a misunderstanding. Theron, not wanting to anger the matriarch, had to agree to let them go. Lysandra asked her private driver to drop me back home. As I left, Lysandra leaned out the window and told me, Go home and sleep well, Leander. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be back. Bye-bye. After I got home and lay in bed, I got a call from an unknown number. Little brother, I heard you had a massive fight at the club. Are you all right? It was Draven. I sat up and said, Just a few scratches. Have Vaughn and his men safely returned? Draven chuckled. They arrived a long time ago. I heard that Mrs. Vance personally called Theron to intervene. Only then did he release them without pressing charges. Word has already reached the underworld. I spoke with Draven for a few moments, thanking him. That's good too, Draven noted. Dealing with Theron wasn't going to be easy. Now that Mrs. Vance has personally intervened, this violent matter will be resolved easily without a street war. I asked Draven, It seems like you know Theron very, very well. Draven laughed loudly and, clearly trying to avoid the dangerous topic, said, I've only heard stories. I've only heard rumors. Little brother, you know I was once a Don, so I know all kinds of dangerous people. What he said sounded reasonable, but I felt it wasn't so straightforward. Draven would get very, very nervous whenever Theron's name was even mentioned. But he clearly wasn't willing to reveal anything else, so I didn't ask too many probing questions. I'd slept very late the night before due to the adrenaline, so I woke up around 11 the next day. I had a little breakfast and went straight to my barbecue shop to assess the damage. That afternoon, Lysandra called me and asked where I was. I told her I was at the shop cleaning up. Shortly after, she arrived in a massive, armored SUV. 3 or 4 of her very close, wealthy friends, whom I already knew, were also in the back of the car. Lysandra didn't get out of the car. She just waved her hand out the tinted window, inviting me to get in. I walked up to her window and asked, Where are you going now? Are you going to get revenge on someone again? You got beaten up last night, so I have to get revenge for you, she declared. I was a little surprised. I shook my head and said, Let it go, Lysandra. It's no big deal. There's no need to take it to heart and start a war. Lysandra frowned angrily. It's no big deal? Getting beaten up by a gang is no big deal? You forgot you're legally my boyfriend now. You can tolerate being a victim, but what about my public respect? Get in the car quickly. I took a deep breath, wiped my hands on my apron, and got in. Last night, your father also said that we should end this matter here and avoid a scandal. If he finds out we're going to intentionally mess with Theron again, what will you say to him? Lysandra smirked. My father has his own corporate worries. He's afraid that Theron might catch me making a legal mistake and use it to blackmail us. But finding a legal fault with me isn't child's play. Just sit back and relax. I've already planned everything out. Today, I'll not only take revenge for you, but I'll teach him a humiliating lesson he'll remember for the rest of his life. I knew I couldn't stop her once she made her mind up, so I let her do what she wanted. Her father was afraid that if he caused a public scene, Theron might financially blackmail him. But Lysandra said she had a secret way to teach Theron a lesson and force him to keep absolutely quiet. I was very curious to know what she was plotting. We arrived at an incredibly lavish, private family retreat resort. Lysandra had booked 2 massive, adjacent VIP suites, separated only by a wall. Lysandra led me to the suite on the right, and the rest of her giggling friends went into the next room. I closed the door and asked, Now, can you finally tell me what your grand plan is? Lysandra didn't answer. She opened her laptop on the desk and began rapidly typing on it. Soon, a live hidden camera video feed of the next room appeared on the laptop screen. A few beautiful women were sitting on the plush sofa, and a large round table nearby was set with expensive wine and food. You'll find out everything in just a moment, Lysandra said. She asked me to keep watching the laptop screen and walked into the next room. I heard her ask a beautiful woman wearing very skimpy clothes, Callista, is everything ready? Callista nodded enthusiastically. Yes, absolutely everything is ready. Lysandra, are you really going to go through with this? Callista asked nervously. I think it's way too dangerous. That Theron is not a simple, forgiving person. Lysandra glared at her. Are you scared? If you are, You can leave right now. I won't stop you. Callista quickly shook her head. Lysa, what are you saying? We're best friends. Your problems are my problems. I'm not afraid of anyone. Callista immediately showed her unwavering loyalty. A moment later, the door to their room was knocked loudly. Lysandra opened the door, and outside stood Theron, wearing a baseball cap pulled low to hide his bandaged head. I hit him hard last night, so he must be coming straight back from the hospital after getting stitched up, I thought, watching the screen. Theron's face was cold and suspicious. What's this new drama you're playing, Lysandra? I'll tell you up front, if you want to beg and apologize for last night, I'll come in. If you want to talk about anything else, I don't have the time. Lysandra gave a very convincing, apologetic smile. Theron, you have such a small, unforgiving heart. My father scolded me terribly when I got home last night. I've realized my massive mistake, so I've arranged this private food and drinks to sincerely apologize to you. Come in quickly. She reached out and grabbed Theron's hand. Are you okay? You're not too badly hurt? That bastard hit you pretty hard last night. You must have been in terrible pain all night. By the way, where is that street rat bastard? Theron walked in, cursing my name. Lysandra lied smoothly. No, he didn't contact me after he ran away. Lysandra sat Theron down on the sofa, and Callista smiled at Soline and the rest of the friends, saying, Girls, you all know Theron and Lysandra had a terrible fight last night, and it was entirely Lysa's fault. So today's private party is to apologize to him properly. Lysa is a bit short-tempered and doesn't know how to talk properly to a man, so tonight, everything is up to you guys. We have to make Mr. Theron very happy. Did you all understand? Callista asked. Soline nodded eagerly. Callista gave a very attractive, seductive smile. Lysa, we all understand perfectly. Don't worry. Mr. Theron is not the kind of petty person to take small things to heart, right? Theron was a notoriously romantic, weak-willed person when it came to women. Sitting among so many fawning, beautiful girls, he went crazy with joy and ego, completely forgetting about the brutal beating he'd taken. The girls kept constantly pouring him strong wine, and he drank mindlessly, soaking up the attention. Half the expensive bottle was gone incredibly quickly. Theron, already visibly drunk, shook his head groggily. No, it's only been half a bottle. How did I get so dizzy and drunk so quickly? Lysandra smiled a wicked smile and said, Half a bottle of that liquor is a lot. I thought you would fall face first into the glass. It seems I underestimated your drinking capacity. This also shows that you engage in these same partying activities every single day. Something has been spiked in the alcohol! Theron suddenly realized, his eyes widening in panic. He angrily slammed the table and tried to stand up to fight. But his entire body went completely limp and paralyzed, and he fell heavily back onto the sofa. Lysandra, you're cheating, he slurred angrily. That's why you called these girls to get me drunk. What do you want, after all? What do you want? Lysandra dropped the sweet act. Your men almost killed my Leander, so this fiancé of yours will take her revenge. Girls, get started. Use all your strength. Theron pounced? No, he couldn't move. Lysandra pounced on him and rained down vicious kicks and punches on his defenseless body. Callista and Soline also stepped forward, took off their heels, and began brutally beating him. Theron's entire body was numb from the spiked drink. Now he had absolutely no choice but to take the humiliating beating. He was screaming like a slaughtered pig on the floor. Only then did I fully understand Lysandra's brilliant, devious plan. She had called some loyal girls to teach Theron a brutal physical lesson. Even if the Theron family had found out about this private party, they would have had to keep quiet out of sheer embarrassment that their heir was beaten up by a group of girls. But seeing the beautiful girls, Theron's ego had taken over his rational mind. He never dreamed it was a physical trap. After this relentless beating, Theron's face had turned horribly pale and bruised, and he was completely incapable of facing anyone in public. You bastard! Theron! Now you know the real power of this woman! This is the direct consequence of messing with me! Lysandra was gasping, resting with her hands on her hips. Theron groaned from the floor. Lysandra, you're a crazy slut! I won't let you go for this. He was still foolishly blabbering threats. Girls, it seems you haven't used your full strength yet, Lysandra commanded. Lysa, we've used our full strength. I'm completely exhausted. This is even more exhausting than hitting the gym. I can't take it anymore. I need a drink of water, Callista said, panting. Lysandra said with a grimace. You guys never get tired of having fun with your boyfriends all night, but if I ask you to hit a guy for 5 minutes, everyone here is dying. Get out of the way. Let me finish him. Lysandra kicked and punched the groaning Theron again. Theron was almost completely speechless and unconscious. Only then did Callista and the other girls physically pull Lysandra back. "Stop it, Lysa, stop it! If you hit him anymore, he'll actually die!" Callista yelled. "Lysa, now that your anger has subsided, think about what you'll logically say to the Theron family. Don't forget that he is legally your fiancé." "I don't have a fiancé. My boyfriend is Leander, the man you've all seen," Lysandra said, fixing her messy hair and drinking some water. "Callista, you will come with me to the Theron family's estate shortly. All you have to say there to his parents is that Theron was blackout drunk and tried to aggressively force himself on you, and we hit him in self-defense to save you." Theron cried weakly from the floor. "Do you think my family members are fools? They won't see through your pathetic trick?" Callista also looked worried and said, "Yes, Lysa, if we say this insane story, will the Theron family members actually believe us?" Lysandra smiled gently and said, "As long as you insist and cry that Theron forced himself on you, they will have to believe it to avoid a scandal. And even if they don't truly believe it, what can they do? They will have to endure the humiliation silently. Don't say anything anymore. Just do exactly as I say. Callista, you go out and call 2 of my guards. Pick him up, put him in the trunk of the car. Then we'll go straight to the Theron family's house." Coming back into my suite, Lysandra asked, "How did you like the show? If you're still not satisfied, I can go back and kick him in the ribs a couple more times." I broke into a cold sweat. I said, "That's more than enough. How could you possibly come up with such a dangerous, insane plan? You really did a great job, though." Lysandra said, "Any method can be used to deal with a vile person. Will you come with me to the Theron family's estate in a little while? If everything goes well, then I will personally force this engagement party to break it off today." After about 15 minutes, we threw the groaning Theron into the back of the SUV and headed for the sprawling Theron family estate. On the way, I asked nervously, "Suppose the Theron family still doesn't agree to break the engagement to save face. What if nothing happens?" Lysandra didn't reply. I asked again, "But what if that happens?" Lysandra glared at me and said irritably, "Leander, is there something wrong with your mind? Can't you think positively about anything for once?" Obviously, I wanted everything to be all right, but the Theron family hadn't broken the lucrative engagement for so many years, so how could they suddenly agree now? I always wondered why Theron wasn't refusing to break it himself. Granted, Lysandra was from a massively wealthy family, but that prominent birthmark near her left eye was considered a flaw in high society. A line of gorgeous, flawless girls lined up after Theron every day. He must have hated being tied to her deep down inside. So, was there another corporate secret? 7 or 8 powerful people were sitting in the grand living room of the Theron family's mansion. Seeing Theron's severely swollen, bruised face as we dragged him in, his mother flew into a hysterical rage. "Who did this? Who dared to hit my precious son? I will punish them tenfold!" His father's face also turned pale with intense anger, but he remained cold and calm. Just then, a beautiful, curvaceous woman in her 30s came up to us and asked, "Lysandra, who beat my brother like that?" "Sister Astoria, I beat him," Lysandra replied without a single moment of hesitation. Everyone present in the room was completely shocked into silence. Theron's mother said sternly, her voice shaking, "Lysandra, if you did this brutal thing to him, there must be a very good reason. Don't forget that you and my son are engaged to be married." "I remember clearly that we're engaged," Lysandra said sarcastically. "To tell you the absolute truth, I wanted to invite Theron over for a private dinner today to apologize, and I had some of my closest friends with me. But I never imagined that Theron would become so blackout drunk that he would start violently forcing himself on my friend right in front of my eyes. If we 4 girls hadn't been there to fight him off, he would definitely have done something horrific to her. Sister Astoria, you tell me, shouldn't I have hit him in self-defense?" Theron shook his bleeding head and slurred, "Sister, don't pay any attention to this bitch's nonsense! It's not at all what she's saying! She framed me with a spiked drink! What kind of filthy lies are you saying?" "Lysandra is your fiancée," Astoria glared at Theron. Lysandra raised her hand and slapped Theron hard on his unbruised cheek. The sound was very sharp in the quiet room. Lysandra said sternly, "Theron, I'm teaching you a lesson in manners. Watch your filthy tongue from now on. Uncle Theron, I didn't do anything wrong by slapping him for insulting me, did I?" Theron's father said with a very serious, calculating face, "You did the right thing, Lysandra. Theron, you're an educated man. Is this how you were brought up in my house? If you were cursing some street rat, it would be a different matter. But Lysandra is your future wife. How could you say such filthy, disrespectful words to her? If I hear such filthy words from you again, I will teach you a physical lesson myself." Theron's mother's face turned white with conflicted anger. Astoria asked Theron, "You just said you were framed by her. What exactly does that mean?" Theron explained everything about the spiked drink and the ambush from start to finish. The Theron family members were lost in thought. It was clear they desperately wanted to believe his version. Lysandra said angrily, "Theron is making it sound like I'm a mastermind lying to you all. So be it. This assault happened to Callista. We'll ask the victim herself. You tell them, Callista, if he tried to force himself on you. Callista, don't be afraid. I agree, this is the Theron family's powerful house. But Uncle Theron is a very understanding and fair man. He won't do anything to hurt you for telling the truth." Callista started crying perfect crocodile tears and said, "Mr. Theron, Lysandra is telling the absolute truth. Theron tried to touch me inappropriately while he was drunk. When I forcefully refused, he didn't stop. He physically forced himself on me. Thankfully, Lysandra and the girls were there at the time. Otherwise, Theron would have ruined me." Callista hid her face in her hands and wept loudly. "Callista, you're making up false stories and trying to ruin my reputation! I won't let you live!" Theron went completely berserk and lunged forward to attack Callista. Callista hid behind Lysandra in mock fear. Lysandra glared at him and said, "Only someone who is guilty and scared gets so violently angry. If you didn't force anything on Callista, why are you so furious at her? Theron, let me tell you, don't think this is your personal kingdom and you can do whatever you want without consequences. Everyone here is sensible and advocates for justice." Callista sobbed, "Mr. Theron, I haven't done anything wrong to your family, so why is he after me? I beg you, please protect me from him." Lysandra and Callista were putting on such a wonderfully convincing act that the Theron family was left staring at each other in dismay. Even though they likely suspected Lysandra had deliberately framed him, they had absolutely no proof to counter the testimony of several high society girls, so they were legally helpless. Theron's father quickly walked over to him, raised his heavy hand, and slapped his son hard. He shouted, "You pathetic bastard! You've brought immense shame to our Theron family name." Theron's mother immediately pushed her husband away and defended her son, crying, "Why are you hitting my son? Can't you see he's already so severely injured? I'm not at all sure my son is the kind of monstrous person these girls make him out to be." Lysandra crossed her arms. "Auntie, do you mean to say we're framing your son with false criminal accusations?" "All I'm saying is that my son isn't that vile and lowly," his mother insisted. "Is he really that great? This is the biggest joke of the year," Lysandra scoffed. "Last night when I went to visit your precious son at his club, he was having fun in bed with several shameless escorts. Now that I think about it, I feel like vomiting." Theron's face turned bright red with panic. "I didn't do anything like that. Lysandra, you're talking complete nonsense." "I'm talking nonsense? I wasn't the only one there at the time. Leander was there too. He's an eyewitness to this," Lysandra said, pointing at me. I stepped forward and said firmly, "Whatever Lysandra is saying is absolutely true. I saw it all with my own 2 eyes." Theron's mother turned on me and accused, "Who the hell are you?" she shouted. "Do you have any right to speak in this house? Get out of here right now." Theron's father also gave me a cold, assessing look, and Astoria glanced at me with narrowed eyes. Theron immediately yelled, "Mom, since this street rat is here, let me tell you that she's betrayed me. He's sleeping with Lysandra!" Hearing this accusation, it felt like a bomb went off in the room. Is she having an affair with this nobody? The Theron mother's face filled with absolute shock. "Lysandra, you're our Theron family's future daughter-in-law. How dare you have a sordid affair with another man? Haven't you even thought about our family's public honor? If your son can have a fling with escorts outside, why can't I sleep with someone else?" Lysandra gave her future mother-in-law a sharp, unapologetic retort, making her gasp in horror. Astoria tried to calm her mother down. "I can't tolerate this blatant disrespect!" her mother said angrily. "I can't tolerate this!" Theron suddenly turned toward the hallway doors and shouted loudly, "Guards, I'm inside! Come in here! Cut this bastard into small pieces!" Several armed thugs rushed in from the outside halls. Lysandra said in a cold, deadly voice, "Who dares touch him? Lysandra, you're still defending this street bastard? Stop dreaming. This is the Theron family's house. What are you guards standing around looking at? Beat him to death." Theron was seething with anger. Lysandra stood firmly in front of me and tried to physically protect me. Those thugs knew Lysandra's high status, so they didn't dare to make any aggressive moves toward her. Theron's father shouted loudly, commanding the room, "I have given you money to protect my house. This is not a place for fighting like street dogs. Everyone, get out of here!" The thugs immediately bowed their heads and quietly left the room. Theron's father continued, rubbing his temples. "Lysandra, your and Theron's engagement was arranged a long time ago by our families for corporate synergy. This was our parents' strategic decision. This is not child's play. But now your relationship has deteriorated so publicly and violently. So what should we do? If this mess gets out to the press, people will make fun of both the Theron and Vance families, and our stocks will tank." Theron yelled, "Break off the engagement! I, Theron, will not marry a slut who betrayed me. I cannot live with the stigma of this shame for the rest of my life!" His father stared at him coldly. "What did you just say?" Theron shrank his head in fear of his father and muttered softly, "She's already with someone else, isn't she? Stop talking nonsense." His father erupted in anger, raising his hand to hit him again. Astoria quickly intervened, saying, "Papa, Theron is still immature and angry. Please calm down. Don't take his emotional words to heart." "Theron, you too, be quiet." "Well, isn't this violent commotion enough?" Theron was still stubbornly pushing for a breakup. Lysandra seized the golden opportunity to say, "Uncle Theron, you heard him clearly too, right? Theron isn't interested in me anymore, and there's obviously no love or trust between us. A relationship forced into existence for business never lasts. It's much better to legally free each other now than to live a life of suffocating hatred." His father's face filled with deep corporate distress. His mother taunted to save face, "If the engagement breaks, let it break! Does my handsome son lack girls? Why should we pursue just one flawed girl? And anyway, my son is so handsome and rich. There are thousands of flawless girls who would kill to be with him." What she clearly meant was that Lysandra's facial scar made her unworthy of their perfect son. Astoria warned, "An engagement isn't a game. We should think this through carefully regarding the business mergers." Astoria added, "I think you're both just very angry right now. Why don't we calm down a bit and talk about this rationally later?" "Sister, don't bother trying to explain," Theron spat. "I'll repeat the exact same thing tomorrow. I can't accept someone who's had a public affair. Everyone knows who they are. When things have come to this toxic point, there's no point in saying more." Lysandra crossed her arms. "We need written, legal proof to officially break the engagement. Just angry words won't do," Lysandra said smoothly, "as if I would ever go back on my word to leave him. Write this annulment agreement right now." Theron's decision was firm, and Lysandra wanted the exact same thing. Her father was a little worried about the business fallout, but now he had no other choice given the hostility. Finally, the lawyers were called, they wrote up the annulment agreement, and both parties signed the binding papers. Her father took a deep breath. It was going to be such a wonderful corporate wedding. I don't know how it deteriorated to this point. "Well, Uncle, it's getting too late now, so we won't bother you any further. Leander, Callista, let's go." The engagement was finally, legally broken. Lysandra was the happiest I'd ever seen her. As for the accusation that she was sleeping with someone else, it was over. She didn't care at all about the rumor because nothing like that had actually happened between us. After leaving the Theron family's estate, Lysandra dropped me off at my house in her car. Her face was glowing with absolute joy and relief. "From today on, I'm completely free! Leander, you played a massive role in all this. Just ask for any reward you want. This girlfriend of yours will fulfill your every wish." I shook my head with a faint smile. "What was my strength in this? It was all your devious wisdom. You just set a small, clever trap and forced Theron to break off the engagement himself. You're truly amazing." Lysandra looked at me softly. "I don't know why, but ever since I was a child, I've been terrified of him at the mere sight of him. I endured it for so many years for my family, but today I've finally eradicated a major nightmare from my life. Unless you're secretly with him, of course." If I had just offered him a buyout of money, Theron would never have agreed to break off the engagement. I'm the only heir in our family, and sooner or later, all our family's immense wealth would have fallen legally to him. This was the biggest reason Theron didn't want to break off the engagement with me despite hating me, and to be perfectly honest, his entire Theron family was greedily eyeing our wealth. You've helped me escape that trap, so I have to sincerely thank you. Why don't I take you out for a celebratory drink? Lysandra looked at me with a very sweet, inviting smile. I immediately remembered that night when the drink was spiked. I quickly waved my hands, backing away, saying, No, there's absolutely no need for that." Lysandra laughed loudly, her eyes crinkling. She rolled her eyes in her coquettish way and said, Look at you. You have a lot of passion in your heart, but no courage at all. Now we're officially boyfriend and girlfriend, so I'll do whatever you want. Isn't that my responsibility as a good girlfriend? I said nervously. I don't have anything dirty like that in mind. You can drive home comfortably now. Come on, you're just suffocating your desires inside. If you hold yourself back too much and get sick from stress, don't blame me. Her teasing words ignited a small fire within me. But I had to control myself. The next morning, I received an unexpected phone call from Lysandra's father, Alaric Vance. You're Leander, right? I'm Lysandra's father. If you have some free time today, I'd like to meet with you privately. I cautiously said yes. Half an hour later, a massive bodyguard picked me up and took me to the towering Vance Group corporate headquarters. There, a professional young woman named Morel greeted me. She showed me around the impressive company, clearly flexing their wealth, and finally took me to Alaric Vance's lavish top-floor office. I could clearly sense that Mr. Vance was intentionally trying to show me the massive difference between my pathetic status and his empire, hoping I would be intimidated and back off. Mr. Vance gestured for me to sit down on a leather chair and asked, I heard that last night you and Lysandra went to the Theron family's estate and officially broke off the engagement. I nodded. To be completely honest with you, Mr. Vance continued, steepling his fingers, I had absolutely no idea Theron would turn out to be such a vile person. Lysandra is my only beloved daughter. I couldn't throw her into such a nightmare of a marriage. Therefore, breaking off the engagement was the absolute right decision for her safety, and you played a big role in all this acting. I, Alaric Vance, always keep clear accounts of favors and grudges. You've helped Lysandra immensely, so I must adequately reward you. He pulled out a black premium bank card and slid it across the mahogany desk in front of me. It contains $500,000. This is your generous reward for a job well done. But I have one strict condition. I want you to stay entirely away from my daughter from today onwards. Will you be able to do that? It happened exactly as I had cynically imagined it would. I said with a slight, respectful smile, Mr. Vance, I know very well that there's a huge, insurmountable difference between my social status and that of the Vance family. That's exactly why I never dared to think anything romantic or negative about Lysandra. The truth is, that day when you guys caught Lysandra and me in that hotel room, it was just an elaborate act to force the issue. Nothing intimate like that actually happened between us. I know that, Mr. Vance said, surprising me for a moment. He explained, I know very well what kind of person my daughter is. Granted, she's a little careless and always shows off her rich, rebellious attitude. But she knows her moral limits very well. I didn't expose her lie at the time because I wanted to see exactly how the Theron family would react when they found out she was supposedly tainted. Okay, you finish your story, I said. Simply put, I was just a convenient pawn for Lysandra to use. Last night, she successfully broke off her engagement with Theron. So, this pawn is no longer of any use to her or your family. So, from now on, I'll happily keep my distance. As for this card, I absolutely cannot take it. Lysandra has already given me my agreed-upon reward. Mr. Vance shook his head slowly and said, I think you're taking things too lightly, boy. I think Lysandra has really, genuinely fallen in love with you. Even if you don't contact her, she'll track you down. I said with a surprised, nervous smile, how could someone like her ever love me? Mr. Vance is now overthinking things. I, too, desperately wanted my suspicions to be wrong. Leander, why don't I give you this money anyway? You can leave this city for a while. Start a new life. Come back only when she forgets about you. Can you do that for me? Mr. Vance, isn't this coercion? I asked quietly. He nodded unapologetically. I know it's incredibly difficult for you to uproot your life, but I have no other surefire way to keep her away from you. Just let go when you're not ready for it. I won't use my men to pressure you physically. You can keep this card. Consider it a small, generous thank you from me. I politely refused again, pushed the card back, left the Vance Group office, and went straight to my BBQ shop. But after meeting Mr. Vance, I felt very strange and hollow inside. He kept subtly pointing out the unbridgeable difference in our status. It was as if he was politely mocking a poor person like me for even dreaming. As soon as I reached the shop, I got a call from Lysandra. Seeing her name flash on the screen, I didn't pick it up, but a few moments later, she called again persistently. After much thought, I finally picked up. My father called you into his office. What exactly did he say to you? She demanded. I lied. He just showed me around the Vance Group office to show off. He didn't say anything else. You don't even know how to lie properly, she scoffed. My father is incredibly busy, and you're not some big corporate boss that he would invite you just to have tea and a tour with him? Tell me quickly, what did my father really say to you? When Lysandra kept insisting, I finally broke and told her the truth about the buyout offer. So, have you agreed to his terms? Are you really not going to talk to me anymore? I opened my mouth. Some comforting words came to my lips, but I couldn't say anything. Lysandra said angrily, her voice cracking, Leander, don't you forget that it hasn't even been 3 months yet. You're still legally and contractually my boyfriend. As a man, you should keep your promise. If you try to back out and run away now, I won't leave you alive. I have some prep work to do right now. As soon as I'm free, I'll come see you, I promised weakly. To be completely honest, I was in a massive emotional dilemma. While I was still immersed in this depressing dilemma, another major problem arose at the shop. That afternoon, Theron unexpectedly arrived at my shop with a massive group of his rich, snobby friends. They aggressively occupied every single table inside and outside the stall, but they just sat there and chatted loudly. No one ordered any food. Many of my actual paying customers left because there was absolutely no place to sit. When they didn't leave until late evening, Bastian's patience finally ran out. He approached Theron's table holding a spatula and said, "Will you guys order something to eat or not? If you don't want to eat, then get the hell out of here. Don't mess up our business." Fat man, what kind of a disrespectful way is that to speak to us? A boy sitting next to Theron mocked him in a very crude, elitist manner. How much money will this cheap, greasy shop even make in a whole day? 1,000, 2,000, or 10,000? Just name me the pathetic amount. I'll pay you double right now to shut up. Bastian widened his eyes and yelled, "So what if you have daddy's money? No matter how much dirty money you have, I won't be your slave. Get out of here, everyone. Don't intentionally interfere with our business. If you don't leave right now, I'll call the police." "Haha, then call the police. Should I dial the emergency number on my phone for you?" The boy burst out laughing. "If you don't call the police, I'll think you're nothing but a coward." Bastian roared angrily, his face changing to a deep red. Theron suddenly raised a hand and said calmly, "We're paying customers here. How can you legally call the police and have us arrested for sitting? Bring me the menu card." My waiter hesitantly handed him the greasy menu card. Theron looked at it with disgust and said, "Listen carefully, I'm placing my order. 1 mutton skewer, 1 beef skewer, and 1 single chicken wing. Give these exactly 3 items to each table. Got it?" He only ordered 1 tiny item for each massive table. They technically ordered something, so they couldn't be kicked out for loitering. This was clearly a calculated matter of causing trouble and bankrupting us. Bastian slammed his hand on the metal table in anger. "If you don't want to eat a real meal, get out of here. I won't cook you anything." Theron sat quietly with a slight, victorious smile. But a few large boys sitting with him immediately stood up menacingly. "Hey, fat guy, what kind of terrible customer service behavior is this? We're here to honor your filthy shop with our presence. If you don't like that honor, we'll physically destroy yours. Do exactly as Mr. Theron says. If you make even 1 skewer less or more than ordered, we'll destroy this entire shop. Why are you standing around looking stupid? Hurry up and make it. If our order doesn't arrive in exactly 5 minutes, we'll destroy this place." Bastian was seething with anger, his face turning bright red. I quickly went over to him and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. I said softly, "Do exactly as he says. Don't get angry, or we'll fall right into his legal trap." Bastian swallowed his pride, calmed his anger, and went back to the grill to make the pathetic skewers. When Theron saw that we weren't getting violently angry, his face turned serious and disappointed. Narrowing his eyes, Theron said loud enough for me to hear, "Leander, remember one thing I said to you. Either you or I will stay in this city. This rivalry between us has officially begun. From today on, I will come here every single day to honor your shop. Now get out of my sight." With that, Theron eventually left, followed by his laughing lackeys. Bastian was about to chase after them to ask them for the bill money, but I stopped him. "They came specifically to take revenge on me. I'm incredibly sorry you got caught up in all this crossfire," I said. Bastian frowned. "Leander, what are you saying? You trusted me when I had nothing. That's why you included me in this business." "I'm not an ungrateful coward. I didn't mean it that way. It's just that we can't mathematically go on like this every day. If he keeps up this ordering drama every day, our shop will be bankrupt and closed in a week." I was also very, very worried. If he were just some random thug, I would have fought him right there. But Theron was a very rich and legally powerful man. We couldn't fight him without thinking of the consequences. "Leander, Why don't we call Sister Lisa and tell her everything? If she intervenes with her family, it might have some effect. I waved my hand and said, we should find a solution to our own problems ourselves. It's not right to constantly bother others to fight our battles for everything. We can't do this. We can't do that. So do we really have to close this shop? I sighed. Just endure it quietly for now. Some way or another will be found. Bastien let out a deeply disappointed sigh and started cleaning the grills. Some 15 minutes later, Lysandra arrived in her sports car. Seeing the shop completely empty of real customers, she asked, "What happened today?" Normally, this is the time when the shop is most crowded with a line out the door. But today, there's absolutely no one here. Bastien opened his mouth to complain about Theron. I immediately glanced at him with a warning look and said with a fake, faint laugh, "It's okay. Sometimes business is just slow on a weekday. Maybe people will start coming in a little while." Lysandra looked at us intently. She was analyzing the situation. Finally, she smiled knowingly and said, "If no one is here, it's even better for me. You'll get a chance to rest." She turned to my partner. "Bastien, I'm taking Leander out with me on a date. You take care of closing the shop." "Where are we going?" I asked, a little confused and tired. "Sister Lisa, you guys just relax and have fun. I'll take care of closing the shop," Bastien said, thumping his chest loyally. Lysandra practically forced me into her passenger seat. After the car started moving, she asked directly, "Has that rat Theron come to cause a scene again?" I sighed. The moment I got out of the car, I felt something was strange. It was written clearly on Bastien's face that something was horribly wrong. "Why did you stop him from telling me the truth?" Lysandra was very smart. I couldn't hide anything from her intuition, I said casually, trying to brush it off. "I'll solve this matter myself. You really don't need to worry about my little stall. How exactly will you solve it against a billionaire? Tell me your master plan too," Lysandra pressed with emphasis. I said, "When trouble strikes, there's always a way out." Lysandra made a face and said, "You're talking big, but is it really that easy to deal with a psychopath like Theron? And even if it is, what about the massive Theron family empire behind him? But to be completely honest, this violent rivalry between you and Theron started entirely because of me. I'm sorry. I didn't expect you to have to face so many life-ruining problems because of a fake relationship." I said with a very comforting smile, "It's okay. I'll find a solution eventually. But I have one condition. You can't leave me. It hasn't even been 3 months yet." Lysandra wrinkled her nose, looking very cute. "I heard that a really good, critically acclaimed movie was released recently. Let's go see it. So you dragged me away from my business just for this? Is watching a movie a small thing to you?" I said, "Madam, I have to work every day and earn money to survive. I'm not like you, who doesn't need to do anything and still never runs out of cash. So do you mean to say that I live only to eat, sleep, and spend Daddy's money?" Lysandra's face turned genuinely angry. I quickly shook my head and backpedaled. "I meant that every person's life circumstances are different. Stop it." "I understand perfectly what you mean," she snapped. "If earning dirty money is more important to you than spending time watching movies with me, then fine. Get out of the car right now. I won't interfere with your precious work ever again." Lysandra slammed on the brakes and stopped the car aggressively on the side of the road. "Get out and go, earn your money. Do you not see anything else in life besides money?" I was about to say something defensive, but I decided to remain silent, swallowed my pride, and didn't get out of the car. Lysandra suddenly smiled, her anger vanishing. "I knew you wouldn't be able to leave me alone like this. It was a weekend, so the cinema was incredibly crowded. Lysandra had chosen a sappy romantic film, which I had absolutely no interest in, but she was completely engrossed in the plot, her eyes welling up with real tears. I don't know when, but in the dark theater, Lysandra reached out, grabbed my hand, and pulled me close to her side. The delicate, warm feel of her body and her special, expensive perfume created a strange, fluttering sensation within me. Suddenly, Lysandra leaned over, came close to my ear, and said softly, "Leander, I feel like doing it." Her voice was so incredibly sweet, and her warm breath brushed against the shell of my ears, sending electric shivers through my entire body. What does she want? Does she want to do something intimate with me right here in this darkness? A fire ignited inside me. "Leander, I need to go to the bathroom." She had expertly set the romantic mood, and then she ruined it by saying she just had to pee. I was surprised and let down. "But it's so dark in here. I'm scared." "Come with me," Lysandra whispered, holding my hand tightly. What could I possibly do? I had to awkwardly go with her to the lobby. When we finally came out of the bathroom, the movie was already over. Lysandra held my hand lovingly as we walked out, looking exactly like a girl who'd just fallen deeply in love. Let's go eat something, Lysandra said suddenly as we passed a brightly lit restaurant. I nodded. But this time, we won't be eating free food and running, will we? Lysandra glared at me playfully. Do you honestly think I'm one of those cheap people who eats free food and then doesn't pay for it? I shook my head and laughed. No! Lysandra sat down at a booth and asked me seriously, Leander, do you really think I'm ugly too? Honestly, tell me. If I didn't have this scar near my left eye, I'd be considered beautiful too. Look at me. I have a good face and a good figure. Isn't it true? Over the years, my parents have taken me to see many top plastic surgeons. I've even had expensive laser treatments many times, but it hasn't made much of a difference. I think this ugly scar will stay with me for the rest of my life. Lysandra's face and figure were truly, undeniably beautiful. But she believed that one birthmark ruined all her beauty. I smiled softly and comforted her. Maybe because of this scar, you don't have to worry about superficial people. You'll find someone who truly loves you for who you are. Do you mind that mark on my face? Lysandra asked, looking at me intently, her vulnerability showing. When I first saw that prominent mark near her left eye, I was admittedly astonished. It was like a beautiful, priceless work of art with a dark stain on it. But as we started spending time together, I completely forgot about it. After much thought, I said honestly, a little at first, but not much anymore. Lysandra smiled, relieved. If you said you didn't mind at all, I'd know you were lying just to please me. Forget about what you think. I'm really bothered by it myself. I didn't say anything, and Lysandra didn't say anything either. She was deep in thought, eating a small portion of her food while constantly looking up at me. Lysandra drove me home after dinner. The car stopped outside my newly renovated house, and I got out. Lysandra suddenly asked, leaning over the console, "Won't you invite me inside to sit for a while? Just give me a glass of water. I'm very thirsty." It was almost midnight, and it wasn't socially appropriate for her to come in at this time. I said politely, "I'll definitely invite you over for a proper dinner some other day." Lysandra made a face, looking a little annoyed at the rejection. "I can eat food anywhere. Why should I only come to your house for dinner? I'm tired of driving. I just want to come in and rest on a sofa for a little while. Can't I?" I nodded, finally giving up against her stubbornness. "Yes, of course you can come in." "Then please invite me kindly," Lysandra said, laughing at my reluctance. Lysandra often said bold things that surprised me. "Madam, I am formally asking you to come in." "Okay. When you're inviting me so kindly, how can I possibly refuse?" Lysandra jumped out of the car eagerly. My house was newly renovated, so it looked very simple, clean, and comfortable. I went to the kitchen and offered her a glass of cold water. "Oh, look at the bachelor state of your life. I think you really need a wife now to decorate." This girl was blatantly trying to seduce me with her words. Talking too much could have made things much more complicated. So I thought it best to remain silent. "Why don't I just stay here with you? I'll take care of you." I started violently coughing on my own saliva. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her boldness. "Madam, do you even know how to cook a single meal? Have you ever done any basic housework in your mansion?" "Will you really take care of me?" Lysandra asked, staring at me defensively. "Did you know how to cook as soon as you were born?" "Everyone learns everything gradually," Lysandra said proudly. "If I didn't know it before, can I not learn it later? Don't think I'm so weak and spoiled. I'm very intelligent. I can learn anything in one go." I smiled and nodded. She was really incredibly smart. There was no denying that. I said, "Drink your water quickly. It's already quite late. You still have to drive all the way back to your estate. It's not safe for a woman to go alone this late at night." Lysandra immediately replied, setting the glass down, "Then I won't go back. I'll stay here in your bed tonight." I was taken aback. Does a high-class girl try to woo a guy like this? I deliberately asked with a mischievous smile, trying to scare her off. "Aren't you afraid I'll force myself on you?" Lysandra was startled for a moment. She put down the glass of water entirely and walked slowly over to me. "Do you have the courage?" She came straight over and sat directly on my lap. She held the back of my neck with both her soft hands, her sweet breath falling gently on my face. "Do you have the courage?" I was simply amazed that a girl could confidently harass someone like this. My blood rushed hotly through my body, overriding my logic. I grabbed her slender waist and, in front of her astonished, wide-eyed gaze, kissed her red, beautiful lips passionately. It was the first time I'd ever truly kissed a girl like this. My mind went completely blank, but a strange, overpowering heat surged through me. Lysandra's whole body went numb with shock. She had never, ever imagined I would actually call her bluff and kiss her. She initially resisted a little, pushing against my chest, but then she melted and joined me eagerly. In the absolute stillness of the night, the atmosphere in my small room had completely, irreversibly changed. I don't know exactly how much time had passed while we were intertwined. Then a man's gruff voice rang out from outside the front door. "Ma'am, it's very late. We should go home now." It was one of the Vance family's discreet bodyguards who had followed us. Lysandra, like a frightened rabbit, pushed me aside and stood up rapidly. Her t-shirt had ridden up a little, revealing her white, smooth waist. She hurriedly adjusted her clothes, smoothing her hair, and stammered toward the door. "I understand. There's no need to say more." Lysandra's face went completely red with intense embarrassment. She couldn't even look me in the eye, just glancing sideways at the floor. "So, I'm leaving now. You can sleep peacefully. Good night." With that, she practically ran out the door. I sat there and rubbed my face vigorously with both hands. I wasn't a romantic, impulsive person. Then how the hell did I lose control like that? Later, when I thought about that specific night, I just smiled to myself. But that single, passionate moment from that night had forever changed the dynamic and the relationship between me and Lysandra. My story with Lysandra slowly became the kind of fairy tale people only dream about reading. But fate had a much, much harsher story in store for Seraphine. Soon after marrying Seraphine, Corwin's true, ugly identity was fully revealed. He hadn't changed at all. He had simply reverted back to his old, manipulative habits once he secured the ring. In no time, he began openly flirting and sleeping with the young women working at Seraphine's family company. Taking full advantage of his new, powerful executive position as her husband, he quietly leaked and sold highly confidential company information to rivals for massive personal payouts. Gradually, he gained total, legal control of the business board and eventually drove Seraphine completely out of the very company her family had built. Her parents, in absolute bitterness and disappointment at her choices, disowned her without a second of hesitation. Their last, cutting words to her were, "Leander was such a good, loyal person, yet you decided to leave him for that worthless, lying womanizer, Corwin. Now you've lost the entire company. You've brought this catastrophic trouble upon yourself. Don't ever show your face to us again." She had absolutely nowhere else to go. Her only option was to beg Corwin. So she went looking for Corwin again. He not only flatly refused to meet her, but also ordered his new corporate security to forcefully detain her and throw her outside the company gates. Refusing to give up hope, she sat outside the gates all day, enduring the blistering sun and freezing rain, until she finally fainted from sheer exhaustion and malnutrition and was rushed to the public hospital by pitying passersby. Even after being discharged from the hospital, she refused to give up on him. She obsessively inquired about Corwin's whereabouts and even went to his new, lavish mansion to ambush him. As a result, Corwin's new, wealthy mistress called her private security out, severely humiliated Seraphine in public, and finally had her sent to the police station for trespassing. After that highly publicized incident, Seraphine officially became a tragic laughingstock in her former high society circle. Wherever she went, former friends pointed fingers at her and whispered. They called her a shameless gold digger and said she absolutely deserved her fate. Worse, when the other companies found out about her erratic actions, they permanently blacklisted her from the entire business industry. Without a job, without any savings, and without Corwin's financial protection, her life became a complete, utter mess. She sold all her precious designer jewelry just to survive and rented a tiny, dilapidated room in the slums. She survived by doing grueling odd jobs every single day. Seraphine, once glamorous, confident, and highly capable, had now become a completely helpless, broken woman, someone everyone shunned like a contagious disease. Later, I heard from an old friend that she was seen near a cheap grocery store in my old neighborhood, wearing faded and worn-out clothes. She was in a very, very bad condition. She was squatting on the dirty ground, picking up discarded, rotten vegetable leaves just to have something to eat. There was a faint, depressing stench of musty smoke clinging to her. I heard that she was now washing dirty dishes at a small, greasy diner nearby. She worked more than 10 hours a day, yet earned very little money to survive. What can I say? The circumstances of people with bad karma are often miserable. Her tragic plight is entirely her own choice. My life, however, had finally emerged from the dark shadows of the past and was welcoming a bright new light, and Seraphine never returned to my life. Seraphine soon realized that Leander was the absolute only person in the world who truly cared for her. But by the time she realized his true worth, it was far too late. Bitter tears of endless remorse streamed down her face every night. Still, there was absolutely nothing she could do to change the past.